motorhome, but the windows were painted and everything, and it pulled over and died there. And it was like a bucket and sponge shop. He'd steal napkins from the Mexican restaurant, and he'd put a napkin on you and 2 rubber bands was the Band-Aid. He had like
that'd be terrible.
He had like 2 tourniquets on you.
You said that was in the 70s, right?
Yeah, 71. I learned in 1971 when I was in the Army.
In the 70s, a lot of people used the bucket and sponge.
Yeah, Dave did.
That was sharing the needles.
Well, they used the same needle for a month. He'd make one liner and one shaver once a month. But he'd rinse it out. He had a sink right here, so he'd rinse it out, and they'd hang it in these tubes of disinfectant that were built into the counter. They were actually like olive jars, but they put that benzoyl chloride, or I don't know how you say it, with anti-rust, and they'd just hang the machine, but they'd use that same needle for a month. One liner, one shaver, once a month. I think they're all fucking barbed. And
imagine me and the guy at the end of the month getting tattooed. I want to come in on, what day you guys make needles?
Yeah. Well, that's why all the old tattoos were, you scabs so bad now, because, you just got hooked needles. And I mean, God, all these old ones would have, like a 1/4-inch fucking scab on them. And that was just normal. 10 days to 2 weeks to heal, they'd say, and you were lucky, But we used little gelatin capsules, 5 little capsules, so we would throw the ink away.
Oh, yeah.
But I went to Doc and Audrey Ford when I was going to go to college in Texas, and they were saying those little jars, 5 little jars, you just open the lid and dip in it, tattoo.
Oh, you use the same jar all the time?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that with a lot of the cases like
they had five colors, an old turntable, and they'd open that jar, dip in the red, and then at night they'd put the lid, all that shit growing in there. Dude. Talk about nasty.
We're all like, what?
Robert's like, oh, it starts stinking, you throw camphor in. I'm like, well, my ink stinks, so I'm not going to use it. We'd use gelatin capsules like you make pills out of. You go to the hardware and get them, and then they have little blocks, with 5 holes drilled in. You take a capsule and put it together and set them in there, and then halfway through the tattoo, they start melting.
When I first started, what we would do is still the cups from like the ketchup cups from
tilt them.
Yeah, we used to steal them and just get a little thing and tilt them over a little bit and just try to run it in the corner. The nice thing was about that though, when you hit the bottom of the cap, just poke the hole in there.
Oh yeah. I've seen guys put little divots in Vaseline and use it.
Yeah, I do it sometimes still if I'm setting up and I just need a drop for something.
Yeah,
just hole my Vaseline. And
I'll tell Dad, just put a drop right there. That's all.
Just gonna do a little poking spot here.
I don't even like conventions. I just smear that shit, put it on the counter. I always work off a little plate, in saran so I can fold it up. I mean, I still touch everything because I'm not even, but.
What do you think has changed the most in tattooing?
Well, all the
since
colors.
1971.
I think all the colors and sanitary methods, gloves.
The first time I set up for Lyle, it was April like 2001. And Lyle comes in and he's gonna do his tattoo, and I set up and I'm putting all of our film and stuff on there, and I had one of those fancy chairs. I go and roll over there, and Bill grabs it, and he's like, "Don't put that over there. I don't want to hear him." It was one of those saddle chairs,
Yeah.
And Lyle's like, "What is all this?" Oh, because there's plastic on everything.
Yeah, Lyle always, so somebody set it up. He tattooed my wife. We went to a shop near Kine, and he tattooed that. He said about one needle. I said, I've been married 50 years. Just use the same fucking needle and put your name on me, So he did that.
You got him to actually do that for you?
Oh, yeah. He's like, well, it's light, just touch it up. I said, well, I'm not going to touch it up, dude. It's like you did it,
Where'd you get that?
It's down on my ankle.
The signature?
Just loud. Jason had one. My wife's got one. Got Stanley to tattoo us. See, I didn't bag my fucking thing, so I'll get in trouble by everybody here. I didn't bag my bottle. I usually do. I must have. He was screaming so loud I forgot. So.
Blame Chris. Always blame Chris.
Heck yeah.
I always hate clip cord covers, and I hate that.
I had
so many.
That's why I love my cordless machine right now.
Yeah, I just hate it.
Is your thing cordless? The mass, is that cordless?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know when I first started tattooing though, I would set up 4 to 5 machines.
Yeah.
To tattoo with, and the coil machines. I mean, you got your whole damn counter sitting over machines now, and then there's still 2. So you do 3 tattoos in a day. Now you got to go scrub.
Oh, I've got hundreds of
metal
tubes in there. I love stainless steel tubes, but since I travel so much, I usually throw away.
I had collected a bunch. I had a bunch of stuff on there, and someone stole my trailer because I was going to take it maybe one day, do something with. I don't know, make some art out of them or save them. I don't know, tons of them. Somebody stole my motorcycle trailer when I was doing the Days of Dead Tattoo Expo in Kentucky. Took like 17 banners I had from artists that were all autographed from them, like they're
I've got a million stainless, but right down the street, I've got just like some early stainless, like Spalding and Rogers.
Yeah, that's what most of mine were.
Little round liners.
Gin liners.
Yeah, I like a little bitty grip, you know, I mean.
See, I at first I used to do the little pin grips, and then we went to like the 3/4, and then they started making all the fancy grips. But most of mine were Spalding grips.
Yeah, mine are an inch through throwaways, but I used to use 1/2 inch and 5/8 stainless. You know, I like a real small grip. I could hold it.
The fun part's cleaning them tubes. You have to do that.
God, I hate that.
That's one thing, Kyle. If you want to learn something about tattooing and appreciate something,
Put 'em in
get you a
that
bunch of steel
ultrasonic.
tubes and have to clean them.
Put them in that ultrasonic, and then take a little toothbrush and scrub them in. You put some pop on your lip. You're like, oh, dude, what is that?
Yeah. You know, well, that was the problem too. Is back then we're scrubbing steel tubes with a toothbrush and a pipe brush.
Yeah.
And no PPI, so we're not, our face isn't covered, our eyes.
Oh yeah,
We're
Splattering everywhere.
You're just splattering the
Oh
hell
yeah,
out
like
of
I
stuff.
said, you feel like, oh, that popped on there.
You hit your eye once and you're kind of like, you do this because your hands are covered, Yeah.
I hate cleaning tubes because you kind of lean that way. No, I broke my back if I with the sink, and I had one side, and I'd be running water and rinse them, and then we'd autoclave them.
I had one guy who actually, one shop owner I worked for, he actually raised the sink up because of all us standing there like that. I mean, that was a
Yeah, you lean into it, and like I said, we'd ultrasonic them.
Yep.
And then, then we'd hand scrub them. I'd put them in a, thing like some Dawn, or we started using a Grease Lightning, and that cleaned them good. Then we'd autoclave them, then we'd check them, then we'd bag them and re-autoclave them. So we doubled autoclave. But the last guys that worked here left, and there's the sterilizer. Everybody here uses disposable. I don't know why it sits there.
You used to have it in the shop.
We had to have that. We had to send in a spore test every week when we sterilize, and then once a year have it
We have to do
serviced.
that now for our Pearson stuff. Every week it goes in.
I know. Do you guys still use sterilizers for Pearson?
Yeah, he sterilizes, or he sterilizes the jewelry, each piece.
Because
after
I
you
told
get it.
Dot, I said, gee, I got some sterilizers inside to get rid of them. She goes, who uses? She goes, who uses sterilizers? I go, hell, I don't know.
Yeah, we use that. Well, we use it. It's called Statum. So it's a 6-minute, I think, cycle or something.
Wow.
He puts the jewelry in there and sterilizes it for a customer. So like you'll even sign the sterile strip in your package, so that way and there's no question it's stapled to your release form.
Right.
So it's all good. But when we did the Days of Dead Tattoo Expo in Kentucky, the convention requirements were that everything had to be disposable, and I had to have an autoclave working on site.
Oh,
And I'm like, you just told me it's got to be disposable, but I got to have an autoclave on site.
well, that's it. We'd have to have ours tested every week, and I go, well, put them in sterile bags, and they show that it's working.
Yeah.
But you still had to mail down to the College of Dentistry every week,
Well, ours used to be monthly for the regular autoclave, and then for the Statum, it is weekly for the spore test and everything.
Yeah, we'd have to mail them in, and then once a year, the guy has to come from the sterilizing place and check the seals and do pressure tests and all that shit.
Did you make needles and sterilize them then, or how many did you reuse?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't do your years. You never did just the same needle for a month, right?
Oh, yeah, downtown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, downtown, we just had a guy, we had a sink right there, we rinsed it out and hang it with some disinfectant. You hated to change a needle because it was seated really good.
Yeah.
Like, man, this thing's working great,
And you had to hand make the needle yourself too.
Oh, I
so
made
you
a million needles. Yeah, I know how to make needles.
solder needles together.
I soldered them for me and my wife and my son every week.
Breathing in the flux.
Oh, God. I still got packs of needles and shit.
That's kind of neat though. Make them, I lay out like needle bars and everything and like my jigs at the expos, and people are like, what are these little things?
I know. Yeah, I don't miss any of that, man. Breathing that flux and shit's nasty. I had a fan stuck
You
in
ever make
all that.
needles, Vaughn?
I haven't had to.
Well, you use probably cartridge, right?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
Let me get this.
But you haven't always been cartridge, have you? Like since
No.
you started tattooing?
No, I started tattooing in 08, so.
A girl who worked for me bought needles, and I said, I'll never reach a fucking money to buy needles. Now I buy all my needles.
Bitch, that time's changed.
Used to
isn't it?
be a goddamn Spalding needle bar was $1.
And to buy a pack of 5 needles was $20.
Yeah.
in the 90s when I started tattooing.
Yeah, when I started tattooing, I think I did the math and it was like between 20 and 35 cents
Oh,
a needle. I was like, I can't even buy solder for that cheap.
I buy 1,000 at a time from Colonial Needle Company in New York. It was a big needle distributor, and you buy a little packed up big one with a
How do you
1,000.
like it? You ever open up one of those little boxes and they all go everywhere? The little
Oh yeah. And then I buy bug pins. They were from Austria. With Raven turned around. They were real entomology pins. They're really for bug collecting.
Right.
You have to cut the heads off of them. You know, they got a nylon head, so I made a little jig where you put them in, clip them, and fuckers would fly everywhere. I know people still sell bug pins, but nobody knows why they were called bug pins. I go, well, they were for bug collecting.
They're actually bug pin
Yeah,
needles.
yeah, I've got some at home. They're elephant brand. They come in a little box, and you get 00, 000. But they're porous stainless. They wear out quick, but boy, they work really good.
I was showing somebody the other day, I have an old unopened box of National needles.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, let me see. And I was like, man, I'd like to, but this thing's been shut for 30 years. If I pry that open, I know what's inside, and neither one of us want to pick them up off the floor. You know what I mean?
I know. I used to put a little magnetic strip, then I pick them up, and I lay them on the strip where I was sawing.
Before they even rolled around.
Oh yeah, because they go everywhere.
Yeah. I think that people find it. That's what I think the importance in, kind of like you were saying earlier, Kyle, the importance in tattoo history, and you know what I mean, and like collecting is knowing what it took to
all
get.
the pigments. You know.
Yeah, you had to mix all your pigment and everything, and knowing like what road it took and like how much. I think it's like shows like how much effort people put in. Like
You try to find the
to
secret.
really
to it.
make it something that works or something. Like people are putting in. I mean, back in the day, to put a pattern on somebody, they would draw it, and then they got to lay it on a piece of plastic. Most of them didn't have a engraver, so they would, like the acetates there, most people had to cut those in with an X-Acto knife or razor knife back then,
Yeah, take a little pin vise, and a lot of guys use phonograph needles. You cut those, rub a little charcoal powder in them, you shave the guy's arm, then you print that on him. And really, tattoos are supposed to work from the bottom up like this. I pull on my line. If you did that on that, you just wipe the stencil off. It's gone.
Yeah,
You know,
stencil
so
drops
man, you
through a
just be
hole.
working. That's why most designs are real simple. Guys work from the bottom up, right to left. And I can't push lines with this shit. I like full lines towards me.
The acetates didn't work good for you then, did they?
And we're going shit. They got a big sweat when you wipe them off.
But I just thought that always showed like how much it took. Like if you were to put that much into like getting it started, so now like to appreciate like what it's turned into industry wise and be able to profit off of like those people, it's like some work, man. You know what I mean? Like to make a pattern just to put it on a guy, you done crafted it 4 times just to get it on him, and then like he said, I mean it's on there like. It's like just on there baby powder pretty much. You blow on it and it's gonna disappear, Unfortunately I didn't have to ever do acetate stencils, but we just used the old hand gel paper. Did you ever do that, Mom? Take the gel paper and hand stencil paper?
I'm still a fan of making your stencils by hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still.
It's necessary sometimes, isn't it?
I mean,
And if you do it on a
what,
glass,
sometimes
with that paper with glass behind it,
get a nice thick waxy
and the
stencil.
line is
Lay it
crisp,
over and over if you need to.
with the gel paper, it's a little bit thicker, so it would still stay kind of liquid if you didn't let it dry. But we use speed stick and smell good in the tattoo shop all the time. It really did, because I don't know, man. I think the tattoo history, like you were saying, sharing it, and like what is important in collecting it to me is so that people know. And then, like me and him were talking earlier, it's like some people's family is not necessarily into it, like or they don't have extended family after them. So if someone else isn't collecting and threading it, then it can be a lost art. And tattooing's been so important to so much of history. You know what I mean? People are like Americans now think like if you really look back, and most of the apprentices, actually a girl the other day that was writing one up, she was like, I started looking and I didn't know which way to go. That Medusa slaves, you know what I'm talking about? She wants to write one for me for the expo just because I said I like it. And she's like, that really goes down. Are we looking into like American tattoo history, or are we looking into tattoo history, the importance it had through Native American tribes coming up to this? And
There's so many different directions you can.
oh yeah, well we have.
It's been in every culture.
We have the Native American.
I'm not a historian. I know quite a bit about American and European tattooing, but I have them.
Yeah, European is even more enriched than American tattooing, because in European tattooing, it for a longer period of time I felt like held the traditional values of why they were doing it. And it was,
Right.
it's real important to like, you know, the stance of people in their Native American tribes and like what your stature was. So, and I mean, I think tattooing and art, like,
It's hard to collect in England and all that. It's really hard to find old stuff over there, you know.
Really?
Painting got a bunch and
because a couple guys have bought it up.
Rambo's got, yeah, just not,
Well, it stayed real traditional there. Rambo's probably got one of the largest collections.
he's got a
over there.
big collection, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tuttle had the biggest, but he was collecting that shit when nobody wanted it. You know, he'd fly to England, George Burchett died, and he bought everything, you know, off of his son.
Lyle's supposed to have the largest collection, isn't he?
I imagine he does. Yeah, Hanky Panky's got a big collection too.
Yeah.
But I think Lyle was just doing it forever, you know, he's got the best stuff.
Well, Lyle was also one of those ones who liked to be in the light and
Yeah.
kind of loud per se for tattooing back
There was
then.
a guy in England named Terry Dino though, and George Burchett's son was named Leslie, I think, and he said, yeah, I helped Leslie load all that stuff for Lyle. And I go, dude, I bet you wish we'd up at night and we expect you to kept it. I mean, he bought everything.
Yeah.
He had her shoe last, you know, there wasn't things that go in just Burchett's shoes, and he just ran bought the whole fucking shop, shipped it home. Probably didn't give shit for it. I think for the less use,
Especially then.
I think for the less use, big Lola, which is like that tattoo one night, I think you get like $600 for it. You know.
What do you think like now though? Why do you think like it's, because it's kind of what his question was, why is it important to collect tattooing? Why do you think the value of tattooing has doubled so much? Like, or
Well,
tattoo collecting?
people figured out it's American folk art and European folk art. I mean, that's a Darren Bray's big antique dealer, and he's got one of the best photo collections, but he started buying the top of the line hymns like the Coleman statue and stuff. Because, you know, like a tattoo artist paid $2,000 or $3,000 for something up a lot. He'd sell vases for $500,000, like Sotheby's auction and stuff. So he saw the writing on the wall, like, well, this is real Americana folk art. You know, you buy a fucking quilt and cost $10,000 or $20,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So people start viewing it more as art.
People wouldn't think, yeah, so you get out of tattooing and you get folk art collectors and they go, well, hell yeah, that's cool.
That's
I mean,
worth
he bought that Coleman woman that was missing for years. There's a man that's in the museum, the woman was missing for years, he had painted. It sold for $27,000 at an auction, right?
to probably a non-tattooer, obviously.
To a folk art collector. Darren bought it and bought some flies for him. He said, I sold the flies. I said, do you want to sell that statue? He said, yeah, I want $120,000 for it. I said, well, I ain't never buying the fucking thing. I said, good luck. But now he may put that in a multi-millionaire folk art auction and get him.
Yeah,
He called me the other day because I've got sideshow banners and I post them on the site. I said, I'm going to sell 3 banners that I got from Covington. They aren't tattoo ones, but they're good ones. And these guys messaged me like, how much you want for it? Well, I know they're worth $4,000 a piece on that. I just know they're Fred Johnson banners. And Darren said, man, if you just wait, I'm opening my own auction house. I'll sell that stuff for you for no commission just to have it. And I said, sure, I'll let you sell it, you know, because he's real knowledgeable, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, he works for the high-end auction houses, so, you know, I don't even know, he's got one of the best cabinet card collection in the world, you know, really early photographs.
Yeah.
And then Nick York's friend of his, Nick York buys a lot off them, but Darren's got, I think he told me he just bought a great big Waters collection off the Waters family. I mean, they follow genealogy and then they trace down the relatives and then they try to find shit. You know, I just buy shit and it pops
It
up.
pops up. So they're actually tracing down, like, okay, who was his kid's kid?
Yeah,
And
he said, yeah, I just got hold of the Waters family and I bought this monster collection with their book on it. And I thought, I wouldn't even think of doing that. You know, somebody called me and said, hey, I got something for sale. Or, you know,
hear about now that you're collecting.
Yeah, Frank-
What made you start collecting?
I don't have a clue. I mean, they're just, like I said, gifts from people. And then Frank Mills, I wasn't really collecting. I'd pick up a few pieces. Frank Mills had big sleeve by Ed Hardy. He used to sell a lot of stuff, but it'd be like $50 a sheet for Carol Nightingale. And, you know, he was a big collector and sold a lot of stuff. And then I started collecting them when my son got into it. I mean, Jason tattooed 25 years, so 30 years ago, he really loved it. So we started buying big
Got
stuff.
something in common together.
Yeah, he just loved it. You know.
So that's what I was saying, like with them, they had the family connection to collect it with me. My kids are tattooing now, but I don't know how interested they're into like the collecting part, you know what I mean?
Hello?
But I think just making sure that people know where it came from, it adds more value to where it's going.
Right.
And like it gets rid of like, you know, now that people are accepting tattooing and stuff, I think the importance in collecting it is just that it's it's acceptable now. So now people are actually seeing
Yeah.
where it came
Well,
from, in
yeah, I had
history,
big knees
and how
to
it
it,
shaped
yeah.
a lot of different things in history, from our military, you know, how they acted on the boats and why they got tattooed and what some of those tattoos meant. So I think now that it's acceptable in society, the whole collecting of history is blowing up and taking off just because of that. And in general, like you said,
Okay.
people are now seeing it as artwork, not as like, oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
tattooing.
I
And I remember at one point in my career, I was like,
stick
I always
with it.
painted everything, but I tattooed like separately. You know what I mean? Like, and I started working for Junior Purpose, and he's like, why don't you do both of those together? I'm like, oh, they go together? I'm like, duh. You know, but I learned to tattoo so old school that it was just like tattooing was tattooing, and it's kind of this secret little craft, you know what I mean? And then like, so once I put them together, it was like, wow, now I think society's putting together that it's something. And so now, like the importance of showing it and keeping it and collecting and finding guys like him that know a lot is to not miss those important things that, and they didn't really shape some serious stuff across the country. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's just
I
an
don't say
American,
those, but they're like-
you know,
I
history
think
like
I
for
got
us.
something
Imagine
like
like
that. I usually
native
like the
history
day I
where it was
did
like
them, you know,
certain markings
something
needed,
like that.
certain traveling and
Time for it,
stuff
so-
like that.
Yeah, just
And then
message
the
me
tools
when you
to
come
see
in
like how it's
Saturday.
evolved, like that shows mankind's evolving of everything. Because you know, I mean, tattooing exists before everything else we had. You know,
Oh, okay.
I think people were getting tattooed before cars and vehicles, and we think it's fascinating that vehicles have evolved to it, but we're talking about something that went from a rock
Yeah,
on a
or just
stick
message
to
in my calendar,
a cordless
by the
machine that
bed.
I can dance
I
in
know I've got
circles
one
with
guy on
and
the
run
side.
for 8 hours. You know what I mean?
But just message me, I know I've got time.
Yeah,
you know,
that's the part I find
maybe a week or
interesting too. Is
something.
like how you were saying, like putting the two together, the tattooing and the art, is like how much that really changed as well over the past 20, 30 years. Because like 20 years ago, it wasn't necessarily like it was art and tattooing.
My
Now
sugar
it is
just went
one
high,
thing,
I'm
and
trying
that's
to
like
control my
that's how it is
colors
seen
and
now.
stuff.
Tattoo is an art.
It was for the longest time. I don't even feel like it was seen as one thing
Bring me a
until the
homeless guy
last
from
5 or 10 years, to be honest. I mean, it was starting to creep its way in, but now people, like if you think of art, you almost think of tattooing at this
just
point.
message me.
You know, I mean, if you think of amazing, the best art, like, it's tattooing.
Yeah, because even when I was growing up too, tattoos were just one of those things where it's like, you got a whole bunch of trinkets on you, and it's like, it was kind of accepted, 2005, but like still, it was still underground. People weren't really like, you had almost a negative reputation for
Okay,
even
buddy.
having them.
Okay,
Yeah, you still had to somewhat worry about them being covered or whatever. People definitely weren't walking around with face tattoos. Right. It's just common ground like it is now.
Yeah. Jason tag tattooed on him. Yeah, he said, he did my book, and I was
How long have you been interested in tattooing or around tattooing?
About like the last 3 years is when I really decided to dive into it.
Well, I think
It's pretty cool you're looking into the history of it though, because like to me that's so important. My one daughter, my youngest daughter, she hates the fact that I like that. She's like, I don't see why I need to write a history report, why it's relevant. I'm like, I don't think until you dive into it and there's things that you'll learn or hear or that you'll be like, that'll be so mind-blowing, that's why it's worth it. It isn't that it's going to necessarily tell you how to do your job today, but it's going to have you like really appreciate that the universe selected you to do this job.
Yeah, because when I first was interested in it, I wasn't
That's
the
how I
most
feel about it.
I wasn't the most excited about tattoo history at first, but after hearing some stories and just how, because it's drastically different, and hearing how drastically different it is, that's what kind of made me want to be like, well, how, what else went into it?
Yeah, now it's all just artists that graduate and
that's
and they tattoo.
That is a good thing because, like you said, you hear the stories that make you want to do it. But now there's very few of those stories because, like when I was here last time, you were telling me how you went down and actually worked in Paul Rogers' shed with him and stuff like that. But nowadays, nobody's crafting stuff together.
I don't even know who Paul Rogers is.
Yeah, half of them are like, who's Paul Rogers? But I think nowadays it's so wide and there's so many manufacturers that.
Well,
you don't get the chance to sit down and build a machine with somebody or draw a flash.
Well, big companies make them.
Yeah, how many artists are sitting
for
around?
all those rotary machines? I didn't some guy sitting home making those. That's a big company.
Big company.
That's
Press
big money.
Well, that's why I like my guy Mike Shaw at the shop. He sits there daily and kicks out sheets of flash that he's actually hand drawn, hand watercoloring. And you're not going to find too many shops where you'll go sit down and then be like, I remember back in the day when me and Dana painted this painting and blah blah blah. And he taught me this. Now
I
it's
went to
just
big Neeson, his shop's so fast. Usually there's no flash because everything's on phone.
oh yeah,
Usually
yeah.
that's all you could get's what was on the wall. I'll take that one. I mean, nobody did custom shit.
Right.
Because half the tattoo artists weren't really artists; they were just craftsmen. Like the guy that taught me, he could trace and do a good tattoo, but They just had the stencils and they knew how to color them, and but, if you wanted something drawn, you're just up the creek.
And what was your mentor's name?
DC Paul.
DC Paul.
Yeah, and he learned from Spalding and Rogers. He had their old shop. Yeah, it's different. I mean, it's weird. I never thought I'd be like the old tattoo guy, but they're all dead.
How old are you now?
73.
73, I thought
I don't feel 73. I don't know what it feels like.
He said,
Aveen Lazonga is 75, but I've tattooed a year longer than her. And
so
then,
what, 51 years tattooed now?
yeah, I think it'll be 52 in March or something like that.
Man, I thought I had a long time at 30.
And then that
Like a pup over
Rick
here.
Cherry, I think he said he started a year before me. But he doesn't really tattoo full time. I'm talking about people still going in and tattoo.
Going in and tattooing on
Yeah, I
there.
still tattoo every week,
Yeah. Well, I'm still involved in the industry and collecting and
Yeah,
spreading
I'm
it.
still into it. I mean, Oh, Doc Price in England's 88 or 89, and he'll go to conventions, do about 40 tattoos, and then he donates it all to animal charity.
Oh, that's really cool though.
He's like cool. His son tattoos, but he was tattooed since he was young. I don't even think he started that early, but he's either 88 or 89 years old. He'll freehand these little birds on people and do them, and then I think he did 40 in 2 days. Dude.
Yeah, that's a lot. For especially
Yeah.
an 88-year-old man, I don't want to do 40
Yeah,
tattoos
he's
right
shit.
now.
And then
45 and I ain't doing 40 tattoos.
he'll draw them on, and I mean, he's okay.
That's the key too of drawing. He can, like say they're a craftsman though.
Yeah.
Nowadays, some of these guys aren't necessarily craftsmen. They can just.
Oh, they're great
duplicate
artists.
stuff.
They're great artists.
I wonder if some of them are even artists if you can just follow the directions. I mean,
Yeah.
some stuff now, if you follow directions, you can do it.
Like I said, I'm impressed if somebody can do a really good traditional tattoo with a really good outline and really good color. Because then if they're an artist, they can use that. But some people are just artists, they couldn't do it traditional.
Yeah, they can't
I mean,
use
they
the mechanics.
sketch in a line and they shade everything up to the line and they're beautiful, like paintings. But nothing's really lined, I mean, it's wonderful work. I can't do it, but it's just a different style. Is that what you do?
I said he's talking about me.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people can.
But a lot of people are under the impression that I can't do traditional tattoos, but I can. I just
Well, like I said, if you can do traditional tattoos and then you do fine art too, that's the best. But a lot of guys they don't know. They buy
Fawn was the one I
they
said
buy a
does the body
pen.
stuff.
They buy a pen. They plug in the needles. They adapt their hand because they have an analytical mind and they're a tattoo artist. But they don't know shit about tattooing. They just know that this machine. If they bought a wood burner, they'd be wood burners. There's nothing to do with tattooing. It's just
See, that's what I was saying about like the importance of collecting it is right there. That
It's just a
statement
different
right there. They don't know
tool.
nothing about.
I mean, I didn't
tattooing.
like traditional tattooing. I learned, man, I can draw better than that shit. But that shit looks
So
like
like we said, Dawn,
tattoos.
or Fawn, when we were in
That stuff looks like
Philly,
tattoos
I
to
can do
me.
better than
Yeah,
that.
well,
That's kind
there's
of
an
your
art to
comment.
it too. There's an art to it too, making something as simplified like
It's hard,
that.
yeah, it's hard to do a kind of a clunky folk art piece. I always want to doodle them up. You actually almost have to trace one to leave out the good shit.
Yeah, you got to dumb it down a lot. It's a little bit hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll be in Italy those days, so we can go together to Marco's. Look, that's the guy from Italy. Joey Knuckles, showing some stony stuff at the State House next week. Okay.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, he's got a monster, 100 and some sheets of stony
He
shit.
got a big collection of them.
Well, the guy that his wife used to take care of stony, his mom used to take care of stony, a big girl named Sue, her son's like some crackhead or something. He ended up with it all and sold it to Joey. He come in there and,
Good thing Joey was aware to buy it all before it got spread out though, and stuff too.
well, yeah, I don't think he did shit for it,
Probably
He
did.
bought a little bit,
He wants a
more.
fortune for that shit now.
Then he bought a bunch, like 3,500 a sheet or some shit. I'm like, hey, I said, I paid $5 for 2 sheets. A good sheet of flash could be $2,000 or $3,000. A rare sheet, not just some bullshit sheet. Tom Berger, there's a Harry Lawson's over there. Red Gibbons up there, the green one. Those are all the 20s and 30s.
I like the material they used to put them on and stuff too. I mean, like
Yeah.
the metal frames here.
Yeah, Tahiti Felix. I just was in Texas and I visited a place that they're associated. Tahiti Felix is the oldest shop in the United States, 1949. It's in San Diego. But they have a...
Still open?
Yeah. But they don't own the building. It's called Masters Tattoo. But they're kind of affiliated with somebody in Texas and they have a little museum. And they said, hey, Daniel, when you sell that, we'd like to buy it. And I said, yeah, I'll sell it to you. But Jonathan Shaw wants like 3,800 for one of their sheets. I think they're worth 1,500.
Yeah.
Maybe 2,000 if you push it, but they ain't worth 3,800. But he's got them on eBay, you know, for
And those are actually from the oldest shop in the United States. Right?
Yeah, the Edie Philly Clinch. Well, those are from the 40s and 50s.
Shop opened up in 1948. Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about opening a shop then. Again, the importance in it right there lies in like what
Yeah,
the
those
rules and
canvases
things to
were
allow us
for
to do
World
it.
War One. Those were like window shades. When they traveled, a lot of times they have on window shades and they pull them down, tap them, and fold them back up. And of course, they have little kits like that, you know, when they travel.
I love the kids.
Those kits are out of the 20s. Well, that was out of the 20s.
I've always died to hope I'm walking somewhere and see one and nobody knows what it
Shit,
is.
me too.
You know, nobody knows what it is. Now everybody does. I know, like
This guy died in 32, and I bought this off of his grandson. This was his
It
kid.
actually had his stuff in there.
Yeah, and he died in 1932. From here over, I bought. I mean, you guys can come in. But I bought 5 machines. I've got a side-by-side quill, but this guy died in 32. He was born in 1883.
Think about that. He's tattooing before.
And this is his book of designs.
I wouldn't do too many colors personally.
Yeah.
What are these power units over here?
These are just some bullshit thing. This is, I think that's a Percy Waters switch. This is just an old transfer. They'd use train transfer. This is a Waters rheostat, I think, a Percy Waters. Percy Waters was just a big supplier, you know, back in the 20s, 30s, 40s. But I mean, this guy died in 32, so he was tattooing right at the turn of the century. Born in 1883.
Actually, they were good.
So hell, he was young when he
50
died.
years old, really?
Yeah, he was young, but his grandson sold me that. You know, I'm like, hey, that's your grandfather. You gotta keep that stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go buy a couple lazy boy chairs, okay? And I got 4 machines that look just like that, and then I got a side-by-side coil, like Wagner built. But I've never seen that model machine.
An actual Wagner side by side?
Well, it's not a Wagner, but I looked at it. It's a real tattoo machine. It's side-by-side coil. But these, I think maybe J.F. Barber made these, because these were out of Dayton, but I've collected my whole life and I've never seen that frame, and I got 4 of them. So who knows? This would make a cool little folk art book, though. I mean, some of that clunkiness is just cool, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a learned thing. I mean, I
non-smoothness.
used to go, well, you can draw better than that, but you can't. You can draw different than that. You can't draw better than that. You know,
You can have a whole different style.
that's
than
why
that
they
if you
have
change it.
that's why they have folk art museums.
I love folk art stuff. I think that's what tattooing. You're
I like-
right. See,
yeah.
now that it's become looked
That's
at as
right.
folk
I
art.
like folk art better than fine art.
Well, I think that's what drove Rabbit, you know, my mentor into tattooing, coming out of the military. You know, I mean, he spent time over there doing folk art, you know what I mean, a little ditch art, and then you come back and you're still tinkering with it, then you're pinstriping
I mean, the guy's a
motorcycles.
fine artist is good. I can't. I mean, the girl that worked for me painted that picture, and I can't paint that picture.
That's awesome.
I'm more of a folk artist, you know. I painted a tattoo. My major in college was sculpture, but it wasn't figurative sculpture. It was all abstract shit, you know.
See, I'm more like, I fall between that painting and like this banner, like I feel like.
I painted that banner that was 16 by 20. That's a fake. That's printed on the back of vinyl, and then I took a file and stretched it all up. But I painted the painting about this big, and I mailed it to Skin and Ink, and it got sold. The box, they said the box got destroyed, but nobody ever showed me the painting. Skin and Ink only got the box. I could have mailed them a picture of the painting, but I mailed them the whole painting. But it was just a little 16. That banner out there with the devil, I
So
painted
if you
that
ever
real
see that on the
small.
streets, you know it's worth something when you just want to get
Well,
painted.
yeah, probably worth $20 when I painted it. But yeah, I did that one, and then I've got the original art to that devil. I painted that about this big, and there was a place downtown they could print on doors or bricks or glass. So I had them take vinyl banner, print on the back on the canvas. Then I took a file and beat it up, you know. Yeah, they look good. It's fake, but it looks good.
Well, I mean, you still made it, so it's kind of not.
Oh yeah, I made it. So yeah. I mean, I guess that counts.
That's a lot of it, too.
Might
It's
be
like-
worth $30 now since I made it.
I love seeing where tattooing's grown to, as far as like the art coming together with tattooing and it being one.
Yeah.
But I also feel like with technology, some of the craftsmanship has left it, right?
Yeah, well, just some magic stuff. I mean, I didn't care about how good somebody could do it. All those guys were characters, you know, they were veterans and
I'll
drunks.
sit down, talk to
Sign
Phil, or
painters,
to Eddie, or talk
carnies,
to.
yeah, I mean, none of them were great. Arlo couldn't, you know, could just do a regular old tattoo. Eddie could do a
It's like
regular
the same.
tattoo. You know,
Yeah,
I'll say-
Jerry was one of the only ones that did some really
Jerry
nice pieces.
was a good artist, yeah.
Yeah, Jerry did a lot of nice pieces.
It was too.
But
Eddie
they,
and Lyle
were,
was-
but they were characters, you know. They were like pirates and cowboys and shit. You know, they had all drunk and rough tumble, you know, carnivals and sideshows and working for gangsters and shit. But that was intriguing to me. I didn't give a shit how good he drew. I've been in every art museum in the world. I've seen the best art in the world. So it's kind of, the tattoo's kind of hard to impress me. I don't give a shit how good it is, you know.
I want to see the story that came with the guy.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather, the guy, like, I got to buy one eyed Chinaman in Singapore. That's a cooler story than I got to buy some rich school graduate and he charged me $2,000. The secret got out because, it was such a trade secret, and then once all that stuff, you could just buy it. Well, people that, couldn't make it, I mean, it's hard to make it in the world of art or acting or music, they go, well, shit, I'll just tattoo.
Yeah.
Instead of being a so-so artist, I'll be a top tattoo artist.
That's what happened.
That's what happened.
Yeah, a lot of people that did art in other ways had to transfer tattooing for doing it.
Like Philip Blue was gonna quit, Philip Blue was one of the best young tattoo. He was gonna quit once and go back to being a musician. We didn't make any money being a musician, he went back tattooing.
Yeah.
Because he was top of the line.
Especially
That Shige guy, the Yellow Blaze from Japan, he's probably one of the best. Hell, he was a Harley mechanic. He just wanted to learn to tattoo. Killer artist.
probably just being a Harley mechanic, being around a lot of tattoos.
Yeah, just a killer artist,
I like the fact that they'll
I kind of like when it was old. I kind of like when it was old.
The gates are open.
It made a lot more money, but it was kind of fun when it was more crazy people and shit. I mean, that was fun. Carnival shit. And there was just more interesting characters. Like there were characters. Now I don't know if there's any characters.
Oh, there's some characters still out there. Yeah, there's still some characters. There's
Lyle,
some cool ones, and there's some that are too
I asked
far.
Lyle, I said, there ain't characters? He goes, probably, but you can't see the forest for the trees. But I mean, I'm talking about like Moskowitz and Crazy Eddie and Bob Shaw and, all those guys, Burt Grimm. I mean, those guys are, they're just icons in tattoo. It doesn't matter how good they tattooed, they just did it so long. That's me. It's easy to be an old tattooist, you just don't die.
Well, I like too, like some of them guys, nowadays tattooers are so worried about tattooing enough to not tattoo. Yeah. And those guys they would damn near not shower for 3 days just to stay there and tattoo.
Coleman, he would sleep on paper on the floor.
Yeah.
He wouldn't change his Paul Rogers, so he didn't die of soap. He drowned. They found him in a river behind his house. But he'd buy canned goods with no labels, and that's when he'd open and eat it. Kept Coleman.
Oh, they found him drowned?
Yeah, he drowned in a river behind his house. But Paul said, well, it sure wasn't from soap. In other words, he was dirty old fucker. He wore the same clothes that was all apart. But he'd buy canned goods with no labels, those half price ones. That's what he'd eat. It didn't matter if it was green beans or dog food or whatever. He'd open that and that'd be his food. And then he left almost $200,000 to charity when he died, which was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
But he could certainly tattoo.
Kevin Coleman leaves $200,000 to charity and eats canned
dog
food.
Paul said, he just, wear the same shirt, the pants till they fell apart, and sleep on newspaper on the floor and shit, just crazy.
I've slept in the shop and kind of worked that many hours where I've done it before a few days in a row, but not that. I still after 2 or 3 days, I'm like, all right, it's shower time.
Well, and all those guys travel the circuit. They go to different carnivals and work. It just wasn't popular.
Right.
Come on, 300 in the world in '71. It's almost like if you were a witch doctor.
I would say there's 300,000 in the world.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
Right? Tattoo artists.
Doc read it was $1 billion point something industry last year, and they're projecting 2 to 3 billion in the next couple of years.
Tattoo industry?
Tattoo industry.
Say it's the largest growing industry underneath the medical and
I'm
technical
touching
field.
my shoulder. I shouldn't be touching my gun. I said I'm all bruised. I just got that tattooing yesterday.
Oh, it is getting all red.
Oh, it's all red. Yeah, right. Yeah. I have no mercy on you.
Yeah.
I got my son's name and my grandson's name and my son's graffiti tag and my wife's name.
I told you Biggins knew your son. said you painted with him a few times.
Yeah.
In events and stuff.
Yeah, Jason painted with everybody. So he was really known for painting. So we're going to do a book on his collection of black book pages. He said they're from the 70s and all from New York. All these guys are dead. He's got one of the big collections in the state. He'd pay $1,000 for a black book page. Like some old black guy in New York would die and somebody saw off his black book. He's got a serious collection. I'm hoping this guy that works for Wendy will photograph it. But I can scan it. But I couldn't
put out nice books. Wendy put out nice books.
Yeah, well, I'm having a book done. There's a place in Indianapolis called Verde or Verde. They do coffee table books. Then I'll contact them. That's going to cost a whole lot more than having it done in China or something. But I want it, cause when I do Nolan's, I'll figure like 500. And I'll have some wholesale to Europe. I want about 100 to sell. I'm not doing that to make money for my grandson. I put all the
Doing this to get it out there.
I'm doing that just to remember Don Nolan, because he laid a low profile, nobody knew who he was, but he was real important in fucking tattoo. And they said that Hardy's arm, and Raven's back.
Well, and to help mentor them guys through some stuff. I mean, he was one of the people that quietly
Yeah.
kind
He
of
just didn't
spread
give a
knowledge
shit.
through people.
I mean, he's an oil painter, he just didn't give a shit, you know, he
Right.
was popular. Anybody that was in the know knew Don Nolan was cool, you know, but he didn't give a shit if anybody knew it, you know.
That's funny. Like when I started the expo, that was one of my things. When I first started Indie Tattoo Expo, was like, I've been such just a tattooer in Indianapolis and taking care of poor children. They're like, I'm not real well known across the country. You know what I mean? I've done probably a couple hundred tattoo expos, but like I just wasn't that loud character. I've always been that real humble guy. So
Me neither.
I was always wondering how it would work when I started the expo, and it was kind of crazy when I go places and people didn't know me, and I'm like, oh, you really do? Like I just thought I've been sitting here quietly tattooing in
Well,
Indiana.
that's me. I was in Indianapolis and over here, you know, there was one shop here, I mean, I wasn't no hot shop.
But you started tattooing here, not in Indianapolis.
No, I started in Indianapolis
Oh,
on my house.
you did do it in Indianapolis
I
first,
tattooed 6
okay.
years on my house there in
And then-
Irvington, because it was illegal.
Okay, I thought you said you moved
No.
in here. So it was illegal in Indianapolis when you did it, though,
Yeah,
right?
I got out there in 71 and I said, what's the license to tattoo? And the city clerk said, there is no license. And I got down and went down to play, so there's no license because it's illegal. I said, well, you didn't tell me that in the letter.
You just said no license.
Yeah, I tattooed Donnie Mueller before he ever started tattooing.
Oh, really? Yeah. Little Don still comes around every once in a
Yeah,
while.
I've never met him, but I tattooed Donnie, and then he went down and had Ron Higdon and Charlie teach him to tattoo. And I tattooed Ron Higdon out of my house in Irvington.
Don Mueller's one of the first shops I went in as a kid. You know, I'd go out there and stuff, and you'd walk in there, there'd be a Harley motor sitting right on the counter. They were working on the Harley motor. I want to tattoo. His hands are greasy. He goes,
He started doing all that.
I was going to watch.
Yeah, I used to tattoo all that. I was the only tattoo shop in town. And then when I left Donnie started doing it, then, you know, he started partying a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And that was his problem, you know, they'd come to my house, or I'd go to their clubhouse and shit and tattoo. And then when I moved over here, I'd go over there and go to the President's Clubhouse tattoo all day.
Go to Leeches and do all this stuff and
So
go
I
to parties and
was
stuff.
Burl
Burl
at
at the time.
President, and, with Pineapple 100 years ago, and then it was Bush, and then it was Burl, and then it was Frank. I don't know.
I know in the 90s it was Leach, and that's who I went to the shop.
Well,
with
Leach
him
was
over
in
there.
the, he was in the club.
But he was the president.
Oh, was he?
when I-
Well, then that was after
Yeah.
Burl.
Yeah, that was way
Because I'm
after.
talking in the late 70s.
This
No,
is-
mid-70s. Burl.
This would have been the 90s when I was tattooing, so this is like mid-90s or so.
Yeah. Burl had a big red beard, so he looked like Burl.
I worked for a tattoo shop that they took from that guy, actually is what ended up happening.
Yeah, Leach was a real nice looking guy, had like a lot of girls.
He was really nice, but he's a big old guy. He did have a lot of goals and stuff, you know, he was real business oriented, and I worked for a shop, they took it from that dude who I told him don't go open a shop over there. But later I started working there for Shane, and it was a biker shop, so it came down to the point where I'm like 20-something years old, and I was just like, hey man, I need to tell you, like, you know, I'm gonna leave, and he kind of stood up real quick, and the chair slid back, and I thought, oh shit, I'm getting my ass beat. This guy's big, he's a big guy too, I mean, and I'm a kid, this guy's, they're the outlaws, like, what am I gonna do, you know? And he slid that chair back real quick, and because I was just like, I'm gonna leave, man, some of you guys been up here, and out of respect for yourself and me, like, if they say something, I know I'm not gonna be quiet, stuff, so when he jumped up, I was just like, oh shit, I'm in trouble now, and he was just like, stuck his hand out, shook my hand, I was just like, oh, I don't think so.
They used to have a clubhouse over by Tech High School, and I used to go over there. Had like a bolt, like a wall, like cinder block, cameras, pit bulls. Yeah, I knew, but because like I said, I had a little sickle shop at Washington and the fuck's the street? In college, what the hell was the street? God, I grew up there. What the hell was the street? Anyway, I had a little motorcycle shop.
Like rural, what's
Rural.
Yeah.
It's rural, yeah. Hell, I lived off-road. I lived on Trowbridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a couple of streets over, really.
Yeah, I couldn't think of rural. Yeah. Yeah, it was rural in Washington. I was just a little bit up there with a library, and I was just past there on the storefront. We had a little motorcycle shop selling aftermarket parts, and that's when I met all the outlaws. They'd come in, you know. I'd tattoo them and shit.
In the back of the motorcycle shop?
Yeah. Do eagles for $10 and shit.
Man, see, I got some old flash out there. They were looking and they had like the price on there. It was like $5, and they're like,
Oh yeah, these roses.
$5.
Those roses were $14.50. This was $32. I got it. And that was,
how long would you get them?
My T71.
Oh, you got those in
Yeah,
71?
DC Pole did those.
$32.
Yeah, that was my first one. It was
Pretty
military.
cool.
Yeah.
And I was in the Army, and it was $32. It was probably $32.50. Everything was 50 cents, and then when we were downtown, we said, let's round up to the next dollar. So we go, instead of $15, we $15.50. We go, let's make it $16. And we thought, man, we're fucking rich now. Yeah, it had an anchor, and I said, well, go ahead and leave it on there, because I was in the Army. They didn't have any cool Army ones, but these were $14.50. Look, all the red fell out. I got both of
Oh,
those
they were
ones.
red?
Oh yeah, they were red. That's why I say you talk about no outline. That didn't have an outline. It'd be a stick with nothing on it.
Yeah.
So that's what happens to no outline.
Well, that's the importance of knowing how
Not
to
too
do it.
bad, Matthew. That's what happens to no outline. That's what happens. These are 40-some years old. Cliff Raven did those, and those have never been touched up.
That's 40 years old?
Yeah, Jason was 2 years old, and he would have just turned 48. Those have never been touched up. Raven did those since I started. These he did the year before, and they were touched up to the ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
Greg gave it. Yeah, those never been touched.
Being hidden out in the sun there.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
did your little duck here? That reminds me.
Jason did those.
That reminds me of Gideon carrying around.
My
that duck.
son, that's on our token. Hey, you, who, me, my son.
yeah.
Those are done with bug pins. The outliner and all. Those were bug pins. So those have to be, God, 10 years old or something. Jason could really tattoo. You know, he's a tattooist. He was like, you know, up better tattooist.
You got tattoos older than all of us, right? How old are you, Paul?
36.
Yeah.
Younger than me.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Well, it's a different time, and there's nothing wrong. I'm sure when I learned, like I went to the first convention in '76, and I'm sure all the old guys were like, fuck all this stuff. You know, that's when Japanese stuff was just coming in, and that's was, you know, all those old guys.
Well, and mags were starting in it.
Oh yeah, oh God, when they first started, I used flat sixes. I'd go down like, how do you make one of those magnums? I asked everybody how you made them.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, somebody did. Yeah, some of them would use hemostat, some of them, Shotzi would weave a throwaway razor. You break it apart and take one of the blades out, and he'd weave that, and that worked really good.
Weave it in, the
Weave
needles
the
around it.
needles, make 9, you know, and then weave them, and then hold them and solder them. Some guys would have hemostats and clamp them, and they spread apart. Some people would use a business card. But the little razor blade, I got that off Shopsy, that was good. And I'd wipe it off, put it in Vaseline, and then tack them, then I'd weave them, you know, and then solder them. Yeah.
And then solder to the bar.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, and I'd hand hold them, solder them. Flip Raven showed me how to make needles, so I didn't use any jigs.
Oh, you didn't use a needle jig? See, I learned with a needle jig. I was wrong.
Well, I had those little 5 Spalding ones, and I'd always solder to it. So then I started using like zip wire, like a piece of like I'd go to the Radio Shack and buy wire and rolls. And I'd cut little pieces about this big that would hold like 5 needles, and I'd square them with my thumb, and then I had a foot-operated soldering iron. I'd solder them, and I'd pull it down, solder them, and done. And if I wanted them tight, I'd put them in a drill gauge and tighten them. Needle, a jeweler's gauge is what I need to tighten them. But then you hold the bar on this. There's a funny flip switch. There's a Welder gun, and you put a linoleum cutting tip. You hold the bar in there, it gets hot. You hold the needle, and then you cool it, and you're done.
Well, I never do it like that.
I know nobody does it like
We
that.
had the old solder and like the old Spalding jigs. The first time we used one of the metal ones, it kind of sucked because like say solder tip, but then they came out with like a little plastic one,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they didn't really stick.
I'd
to
take
it.
all my liners and file a flat spot on them so, you know, the needle wouldn't slip.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So then
it
I'd
spin while you.
make a 5 or a 3, and I'd put it on the bar and hit the pedal, and it'd get hot, and I'd put the needle on, and I'd have a little thing here with a sponge on it, so I'd cool it. It's a trick, but that's the way I still make it with my baby.
Didn't matter have to make every needle.
Right.
Well, you know, I remember we made them all for, I don't know, first 10 years I was tattooing at least, made all the needles.
There's Chinese
And
solder.
then the guy in town started making them. The guy in town started making them, but it was like 20, $25 for 5 needles. But we were more than happy to go buy them. You know what I mean? Because you didn't have to make them.
Now they're like $1 a piece.
Yeah, and less than that, I think now. Yeah.
I get those from Eminent. I just start from Aaron, and I really like these.
I didn't mind making them.
And I think
but-
they're like $20 a box for
Oh yeah, 50
of them.
needles
50 of them.
for $20. No, we paid $25 for
And look
5
how
needles.
nice the solder is, dude. I'd have clumps, you'd have to file it off and stuff.
Sometimes we would go buy those for $25, and then you get back and you go to use one, and it'd be needle upside down, or they
Yeah.
got soldered on the bar upside down.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah, you put
You
that.
would notice when you started tattooing your client sometimes, like something's not right.
I think for a year or two, I'd put the needle in the bar, it'd be on the bottom instead of the needle on the bottom. I didn't know the difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I just go, well, this is right, you know. Or I'd use a shader to.
Well, you have to flip over your bar if you set it on the wrong side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because usually the slot's to the left, you know, if you're looking at it, but if you solder it wrong, it don't
You gotta
matter.
flip it over so that way it's not.
But yeah, I'd use a shader till it was like a razor blade, you know, you turn them over and they just sheen, you know, they were 6 needle flats. I'd mail them to Huck, he goes, we don't put new needles on them, you know. He goes, you gotta buy a new needle. I'm like, I don't wanna buy a needle. They were pretty expensive, like I said, a bar was $1, just for a blank.
Well, you're
needle.
talking in the 70s and 80s $1.
Yeah.
So that's
And they
a lot.
come flat,
Yeah.
you'd have to take a little pocket knife and spread them, or some guys would poke them right through their shirt like that.
Oh, yeah. Old guy told me, he said, I used to always just grab my pant like this, right above my belt, just
Yeah.
jab them in there and it would spread them out.
Yeah, a lot of guys run them through their shirt. I just take a little pocket knife and, cause
Heat
when
'em
they
up.
come, they're like that. And that's a blade, and you have to spread them out, you know, like that. So.
We used to just like heat them up, loosen up that solder a little bit, and it would just kind of let them
Oh, yeah,
flex a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, it's all prehistoric shit. Now you just get a cartridge, and I think the cartridges are cool. I mean, I think the inventions are cool. You know that people can make that stuff.
Well, that's what I thought. You know,
Because Raven tried rotary machines years ago, and they had them in England. Raven had one goddamn motor was that big. It was like a veterinarian machine. He'd try every machine, but he tried one for a while.
I think rotaries have been out a lot longer. That's, you know, but
Sure.
the way they've advanced, like you said, made it to
I mean, it's.
8-hour battery sitting right
I
on
mean,
top
I know
of
guys
it.
that just, I didn't even want to like it, and I like it. You know, I picked up one in
He said, I didn't want to
Berlin.
like it, I like
I
it.
picked up one in
Same.
Berlin, and I looked around, nobody was looking. I tried to do a line on this rubber skin. I go, fuck, I can't even get a line in there. And I put it back down like, don't take my picture. It's like, well, they look like, to me, that's like tattooing with this thing. I can't tattoo with this. I mean,
I don't wrap mine that thick, you know.
no, but I mean, they're big. I can't, you know, I like a 1/2-inch grip because I put my finger way down there, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, they obviously
want to
work.
go
People
rotary,
do
but-
beautiful work with them, and it's cool to go to, like Big Meat said, well, I use a 9-needle Magnum as big as I
I got
use.
tired
He
of
said, I use
adjusting and working on
45 needle
machines.
Magnum.
That's the reason I went to it, because I guess you got tired of adjusting and working on my machines in between
Paul's got
tattoos
a,
and
Paul's
stuff.
got a Dan Cuban over there.
Those damn Cubans are tight, aren't they?
Those are good.
Yeah, I use the Sidewinder a lot.
Yeah, that's
You
what
just use a
Shaw
shade,
just bought.
yeah.
No, I just use the liner, really. I have a shader.
Oh, use it to line.
Yeah, I use a coil mainly for shading. I mean, I have a shader of his. I like it, but I prefer.
Paul's a really good technician.
I prefer a coil.
What is that making sharp there?
This is a Kevin Wright. This is Dana's machine.
My goddamn machine that Kevin Riley built me. But Paul just ordered him a pair of them.
And
But I've
he's
got
taken
300
forever.
machines. I go, well, try it out before you buy one, you know.
Yeah.
But Paul ordered a liner. Is that my wall?
You ever mess with,
Yeah.
rotor, or with, did you tattoo a coil to start?
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever tattoo with it anymore?
I actually feel like I want to, maybe when I do more solid line work, I think I want to switch back to a coil. I just got an adapter.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys
See how
that
it works
line
better
with coils and shades.
Well, he was saying Big Means even set up the coils to work on him the other day. I thought that was cool that he had the respect to like, hey, I'm gonna tattoo.
Yeah, he was gonna buy one of those $1,200 coil machines. He had one Quinte and he had a Burt Crack shader. And he said, no, I use a rotary. He said, because I use 45 needles when I'm doing that real big work. I said, well, you can use whatever the hell you want. I mean, I'm not like anti-rotary machine.
Yeah.
It's just, I spent 50 years fucking with coils. I mean, I was just thinking, man, my shader's running like shit. Or my outliner was running right on point, you know.
Yeah, that's why I quit, because you know, you're in the middle of a tattoo and you're like, do I stop and adjust my machine or just fucking, you just work with how it runs.
Yeah, I mean, it'll sound good, and then you start touching, like, that thing sounds shitty, you know? My liner was working great. I mean, I use a lot of Burt Cracks machines and mic pipes, you know. But liners are easier for me. Shaders, I still don't know if I love any shaders.
That's the one thing that I resisted and didn't want to go to the rotary, but like I said, I'm in the middle of a tattoo and now my machine's running funny and
Well, it's kind of like I've spent 1,000,000 hours for no reason in the basement changing coils and capacitors and
now you're gonna
springs and
switch to
threads and
something
stuff. And so, hell, you could, I mean, if I just started, I'd probably buy 4 Dan Cuban machines, you know, that's it. So I'd probably buy, you know, the big
pins.
pins. But if I know a little bit, I'd buy Dan Cubans because they run like a coil machine, but they're just
You'd be still
constant.
focused, like,
They're constant. They don't bog down and shit. I mean, they're
I've
direct
seen the
drive.
Dan Cuban sidewinders. Those are so.
I mean, you can turn one of those machines down and get that real cool stipple shading, and if you turn a coil machine down, it's dead. You know, you have to whip shade with your hand. You know, those you
Yeah,
gotta turn
it's a
down, go
movement.
dot, 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 which I love that look, but now everybody can do it because the machine will do it. Dot, 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 dot,
Yeah, I
dot,
think
dot,
the
dot.
feather shade.
It's not the whip shading, but I love stippled shading, you know. That's one of the
Well, you know, it's
benefits
funny,
of
my daughter
a rotary.
uses rotary, and she still won't slow it down. She still just does it by hand.
Does she?
Yeah, she just says that. She don't get it slowing it down like that.
I love that look, man. I've always loved that, like peppery shading.
I'll quit.
Kid from Pittsburgh come down tattooed here, he colored the whole thing in like pepper shade. I go, man, just put some here. So there, the whole thing will have to be polka dotted.
Yeah. You guys got a polka dotted face now.
I do have that though, I can do that.
I don't.
Oh, which card was yours?
The red.
Card.
Vaughn, you know what's funny? I was doing that podcast with Adam Stoner.
No,
So you watched the one we did with Adam Stoner? So I did one with him, and it doesn't have all this on there, but we were talking about like tattoo history. And so I'm like, yeah, mine's not much. And then next thing you know, he's rattling off his. And I'm like, and he's looking at me, he's like, we're supposed to be talking about yours. I was like, yeah, that's what I did to Fawn the other day too. I was like, got all her history out while I was sitting there.
I mean, there's probably on way too much chemistry at the moment, so I don't know if we'll ever use that for anything. People were like,
Hey, there was some good story there.
there
though.
was
Good audio
I have to
over-
share it with you.
Good
Chris.
audio over the video, like over a new video, right? Like,
Scrap it for a different project.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you guys want to do? I mean, you want to interview, just share bullshit stories or take pictures, or what do you want to do?
He's been recording,
so
so.
he's been recording.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically what I was just trying to do. Is just
Oh,
have the conversation, get a little bit of it on camera to have for later.
oh, okay.
His
Mostly
main
I'm looking at
question
just
was
get
finding
camera.
what's the importance in collecting tattooing, or what we think the importance.
Well, I mean, that's like collecting antiques. You know, you just have a passion for it, or you don't have a passion for it.
Oh, you can.
I mean, I wasn't a collector, but to me, I like. The older I get, of course, the more I like the early tattoo stuff.
Now you're one of the largest collectors. You say you weren't a collector, but now you have one of the largest
Yeah,
tattoo
I don't
collections.
You like enter.
But I mean, that was, I grew into it, you know, I didn't like small.
Other than you just liking it, or do you think there's an important reason to preserve it?
Well, sure, yeah, it's medical health art. I mean, come on, I got pieces from the turn of the century, you know, that's a one-off piece that a guy hand drew.
I mean, yeah, like those pieces are from World War II. Think about that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that could say a lot about that unit and what those people were going through at that time. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that.
you know, so that's where I think the history of the
Well, like I
importance of
said,
collecting
a
it.
lot of these are from the 20s, you know, that's about, I mean, these are Harry Lawson.
Hold on, let Kyle catch up.
Okay.
Give him a tour.
Yeah, this is Red Gibbons. Artoria Gibbons is a world's famous tattoo lady, which is on my business card. I know her daughter. I met Artoria in the late 70s, and her daughter's 87, 88. Her daughter's named Charlene. But that's her father's original Flash.
And what year is that from, you think?
I think he tattooed in the 30s. And then he went blind. He got beat up and he lost one eye, and then he was building a room and a nail hit him in the other eye and went blind. Then he went into depression. And so Charlene, I mean, Artoria kept touring until she was like 80-some years old to support the family. But she had one of the best bodysuits ever. Her husband did it all. You know, it was compensated. I mean, she's on that card right there. This is Artoria Gibbons. She had the Last Supper, big Italian
Figure out.
paintings on her legs, and
So,
you know,
I'm gonna
and
come
George
in-
Washington
I'm
on
gonna
her
come in next
chest.
Thursday, I do have a little bit
And-
of
Well, that'd been cool for that time period.
Oh, it was beautiful. I mean, it wasn't hot
That's what I think too. Like,
Betty Broad's been
Thursday,
spoke
the
about
following
March
week,
what was
I'm
going
off
on
Friday.
the
Are you here on
when
Friday?
this folk
Yeah, I'm
was
here
being
Friday.
hit.
Yeah.
I can
Oh
do
yeah, it'd be
Thursday,
like, you know, Snuffy Smith, or you know, now we do Cartman or
No, it's
Bart
fine. We
Simpson.
can do,
It reflects like pop culture. But
And tattooing someone always done that, don't you think?
yeah, well, sure it has.
You want to come in at 3?
Yeah, this is Ralph Johnstone that tattooed in Chicago. He was a banner painter and a really good tattooist.
That's cool.
That's George Birch's window sign from the early 1900s. Those are Percy Waters' production sheets up at the top. And a lot of this stuff you isn't signed, you know, artists didn't sign. I mean, it was just tools of the trade, you know.
That's just what they were doing. They didn't even care to sign it, huh?
No, it was just, well, we gotta draw pictures, and, you know, if it's signed, it's worth a lot more, but I just bought it because it's cool, you
Well, I
know.
also like looking back, because then all this stuff, some people think they newly created. If you look back and it's right here on a sheet from
Yeah.
70 years ago.
I bought this sheet, and I thought, I don't know if I want that sheet, it's real dirty. Well, now I love that sheet. I mean, that's really early sheet, you
Yeah.
know.
What would you say that's from?
20s. Yeah, I mean, it's got this like
I love the discolor of it.
early. Yeah, me too. I bought that off Tennessee Dave in California. And then, you know, these are Burt Grimm designs, but Owen Jensen produced them and made them. But Burt Grimm did the originals of those. And then Owen Jensen had a supply company, and those are early reproductions, you know.
And this is probably over the top of that. He just taped regular tape with some paper, or plastic with some tape, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, you just kind of.
Yeah, we cover them with acetate. I mean, when you lift up that acetate, these things are really bright, even though they're that old.
Yeah, because acetate gets that little yellowish.
Yeah, oh yeah, I saved old yellow acetate that used to be in those flippers, and when I drove some, I'd put it on there so it looked real old, you know. Yeah, it was cigarette smoke, and Lawson was real famous. I mean, this guy, Harry Lawson, he was a bucket and sponge guy. But I mean, those are just, look at that. Just,
Where's that from, though? Because that doesn't look like American, not really.
yeah, he was American, yeah. Yeah, like this is Lawson. I didn't even know it was Lawson, and Clint Vault was in here and go, those are Harry Lawson's. I go, there he goes, yeah, they're in a picture behind him.
That's another person I'd like to contact. Clint, I haven't had a chance to
He's a nice guy. Him and Heather, I mean, they got divorced, but he's a really nice guy.
He's got a decent little collection too, correct?
Yeah, yeah. That's Coleman. You know, that's one of my favorite. Jason, you know, Doc bought that. That's all this Coleman, you know. All this Coleman kind of reinvented American tattoo, and he used a heavy outline, a lot of black shading, and a couple colors. And when all the color fell out, it still looked like a tattoo.
Right.
But Coleman tattooed in Norfolk, Virginia. So he was kind of considered, you know, like the inventor of American tattooing. Like British tattooing was single needle and stuff like that. And Coleman did those bold lines. But that's a real Coleman sheet. That's an Owen Jensen production sheet. They call pork chop sheets. I don't know if that's because you could buy a pork chop or what. I heard that
Well,
once.
they call little design pork chops. I always wondered where that name
Somebody
came
told me
from.
that means you can sell a little tattoo and buy a pork chop, but I don't know. Yeah, that could be bullshit too. This is probably from the 20s. This BD wasn't on there. This was in a Hollywood prop room. And I still say it's Percy Waters and some doesn't, but see the little guy in the bottom, that trunk's right behind him where he's tattooing.
Yeah.
And that looks like a young Percy Waters. He's got a bow tie and he's jug-eared and he's got little oval glasses on. And all the stuff in there is Waters, except that's a Jonesy machine because I didn't want the real Waters one in there. But the power supply, all those pictures embossed Waters, and I've got pictures of this box in the 50s used in a Navy movie.
Well, why would they have it? I mean, you would put Waters' pictures in there if it wasn't you, right? I mean,
Well, oh yeah, tattoo artists like the trunk I've got at home, a lot of them used Artoria Gibbons because she looks so good, so they put it in their ads and everybody would assume they did it. You know, they didn't
Before
do it.
copyright and worrying about
Well,
it.
you just have a picture of Artoria, they're like, oh, this must be a good shop, look how good that work is. Yeah.
Really bored over here. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I hadn't taped it, and it was a star. I wanted it to say Percy Waters. But it was in a Hollywood prop room, and they thought it was a fake prop because it had been used in a lot of movies. Then they realized the guy down there, that little mirror is on top, so the picture of the guy's using that box. You know, and it's got two little butterflies on it. I've got a picture from the
That's the
50s,
same
like a
box,
press
huh?
release, and there's a Navy guy, and they were using this box, but it's got flash on each door, but it's still got that little mirror on it. So once the guy found out it was real, the price went way up on it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a swordfish bill. It was probably a souvenir for the Navy. This is 1905. And I've got the same,
wow.
I've got a sheet of flash with that guy painted on it, right after the Spanish-American War. And this came out of a big auction on Civil War and Spanish-American War stuff.
I think if you go back and look at stuff that people find, like, again, the folk art
Yeah.
that shows what happened in all these wars,
Sure.
most of those guys did come back and tattoo or had something to do
That's
with
probably the Maine or something. I want to thank the Maine. I've got some flash with Maine. That's Tom
it. That's a
DeVita.
freaking cool piece. What is that actually on?
It's a swordfish bill, a big swordfish. Everybody thinks it's ivory,
Okay.
and that's all hand forged copper. Like you take that off, and it's all soldered, and then there's a copper bar on the back where it was starting to split. But the sailors would either make like cribbage boards out of these, or they'd make sword. I've got one in my house that's like a sword, and it's got some butterflies on it. But this one is killer. I mean, it's never been used. Look,
Where'd you find that?
It's just perfect. A big auction. Like I said, it was all Civil War and Spanish-American War. This is Tom DeVita, that was, you know, a real folk artist. So then Hardy taught, was in New York, but this is DeVita would do rubbing and stuff, and I had him do that painting for me. He glued one of my cards on it. It'd always say Gotham Tattoo or something.
Do you know what this sign is for? Have you learned that one yet?
I do not.
Oh yeah, black eye. Well, everybody always thought they tattooed black eyes, but they don't. Most tattoo shops were in a barber shop, and during the Depression in the Bowery, people were drunk and fist fighters, so they get a black eye. So when they'd go to stand in line for a job, they wouldn't get it. So black eye specialists, you go in, they put a leech on it, and then they used a makeup. So it was a makeup artist.
Okay.
Actually, there's a little box way back there, which I can't reach. If you get back here to see it, it says black eye
Oh,
makeup.
yeah.
And that's the same label that's on the back of this. This is a reproduction of black eye, but it's Stein's makeup, and they did clown, see, black eye paint. That's a copy of it. That's a real box. That's the only box I've ever seen. But that's a copy of the box, and they'd go around and hang these in barber shops and tattoo shops, and they'd sell their makeup to them. So the guy, if he had his black eye made up, he'd get a job. You know, if you show up all beat up, you ain't gonna get the job.
Right.
That's what a black eye specialist was.
Okay.
Wow, so many people have different thoughts on it and stuff. And somebody tried to tell me something bizarre the other day, and I was like, that's not at all what that has to do
Black
with.
eye?
Yeah.
I always thought, how the hell do you tattoo a black eye? They didn't put a leech on it, and they used black eye makeup.
Well, I knew the story of that a while back, and somebody else tried to tell me it meant something else, and I'm like,
No, it doesn't.
no, it's
No, it
to
doesn't.
do with getting a job down the Bowery where people were rough. Like everybody fought back then. Drunk after the shift. The next morning you stand there looking for a
tattoo
job.
shops are always in like Skid Row, like Charlie
Right.
Wagner. I mean, it was a seedy business.
Yeah.
You know, they'd be doing 50-cent quarter tattoos, you know, during the Depression. But Stein's would go around and put those, and if you look at, they still have Stein's makeup. You can get clown makeup and cover mark, but that's the only box of black eye paint. I don't know where the hell I got that, off eBay or Etsy
I've never
or
seen one.
something. That's a real box. You know, that's a reproduction sign, and I painted that sign. Just I thought it was cool, black eye specialist. Something you go around punching people in the eye.
I always thought it was cool because it's in a lot of my old history photos of stuff I have in old shops, and it always said that. So that's why I found out what it was years ago.
I love it. I'll be able to.
The tattoo has been helping people out forever, man. You know, we're that awesome.
Yeah. Joe and Mabel. No,
Help you get a job and help you not get one, right?
Right.
Betty Wheeler in Kentucky owns their trunk, and they tattooed in Texas. But Joe and Mabel, it's Darpel. I always say Darpel. But he owns their big steamer trunk that opens up and it's just full of fucking designs.
Okay.
His dad bought it. His dad was a big collector, and when his dad died, he left Buddy the collection. And Buddy's done a wonderful
That made me think I bring my Polaroid again. Because of Buddy, I started carrying a Polaroid camera.
You could just keep it in your truck.
I used to, and then I just had a problem with film, and then I lost one. Thought it was lost. It was hidden in my truck. But I used to carry it because Buddy always has all these pictures, and he's always posting like, "Hey, I found this box of pictures of my dad and Paul and all these people." Yeah. And he kept posting them, and I was just enjoying seeing those pictures so much. And then realizing like my kids can't flip through my phone when I die and see these cool things I did. So I started carrying my Polaroid, and the tattoo world loves the Polaroid. Everybody's like, "Man, I break that thing out." And they're like, "Oh, that's dope."
Yeah, kids are
And I got a bunch of cool Polaroid pictures
He
of
goes, "Can I
everybody.
take a Polaroid picture?" Yeah, sure. He's signing. I go, "Well, it won't write on here very good." But Buddy bid against me on that. I didn't know Buddy was bidding on it. That was on eBay, and I bought it. There was a great big collection come out of Texas. Some guy found all these boxes in a warehouse. And the guy was named Dutch Van D. Had owned this like arcade where different tattoo artists worked there. Well, he ended up with all their flags. Somebody told me he'd give like $1,500 for all these boxes, and by the time he sold it was $200,000 to $300,000. Because it was like Crimshaw and Darpel and all these sheets that go for a couple grand a piece, but it was just in a warehouse. And then I bought that banner out of Texas.
Me and Dave Sloan went down and checked out Buddy's collection. He's
Yeah,
got a
nice
pretty good little collection
Oh,
set up.
man. Yeah, he's got barns full of shit.
Cool, I bet. He just had a cool display at the shop. I can only
Yeah.
imagine what he has.
He's a really nice guy. He really keeps his dad's legacy alive,
He's done real cool with it,
Yeah, well, his dad left him like a strip mall in the collection and all, but he's done good with it. I mean,
Yeah. He's keeping it.
that's what I was hoping my son would do, is keep our collection alive. Well, my son passed, so he can't do it. But I mean, he would have did the same thing. You keep the legacy going. That's the only reason we did the book, because he wasn't here to share it, so we wanted to share it with a book, before I croak or whatever happens to you. Yeah.
You pick them, we stick them.
Yeah, that's what DC Paul used to have on his cards. You pick them, we stick them. DC Paul, Spalding and Rogers were, the biggest manufacturer of tattoo supplies. Well, the guy that taught me learned from Spalding and Rogers.
Okay.
So he had their Fayetteville, North Carolina shop at Fort Bragg. So all that flash on the left and all this flash on the right at the bottom, that's out of the shop I learned in.
Yeah.
And
I think, I talked to Derb too. I think that's where he went to North Carolina and did his little military stint for a while, wasn't it?
Right, we went to Biloxi.
Well, oh, Biloxi,
Biloxi, Mississippi.
Yeah.
I come back from
Sailor
Vietnam and had a
Moses.
year and a half to do at Fort Bragg. Didn't want a tattoo, didn't know anything about tattoos. Went with a guy and he got one, that old yellow trailer, and I said, gee, how do you learn to do this? And the guy said, well, the Rice School of Tattooing. So I went up the street and it was Dave Paul, and I said, yeah, I'd be interested in this, but I don't know if I want any tattoos. You know, I'd have threw me out of the shop. But he's seeing dollar signs, you know, yeah, I'll teach you. So it was real short, it was like 6 months, me hanging out and not learning how to make one needle.
When you were down there, did you know Sailor Moses? Did you ever work with him?
Oh, I know Moses later, yeah, sure, yeah. I got some Moses production flash up the street, and I was a big crazy drunken Moses. Yeah, he said the only time he was ever on a ship he delivered a pizza. I go, why are they calling you Sailor Moses? Him and Ed
A
Everly.
lot of old tattoo artists have the sailor name.
Oh, yeah,
And not
yeah.
many of them were actually sailors.
No, I went to see Lyle.
What is that?
And he said, because Sailor Jerry was supposed to have a picture of Lyle taped in his toilet lid. He hated fucking Lyle. And Lyle showed me a machine that said Sailor Lyle. He said, that was going to be my name. He goes, that's why fucking Sailor Jerry hates me.
Sailor?
But he actually had a picture of Lyle in his toilet, like in the lid or something. He just fucking hated him because, you know, Lyle was a great PR guy. Lyle always said, hey, I was right place, right time, otherwise I'd be doing stick people. Jerry was like a really influential tattooist. Same as Ed Hardy. Ed Hardy was kind of jealous a lot, you know, because there was
Hardy
Ed
was smart in those days to know to collect his stuff and like start
Yeah.
documenting it. And Lyle was loud, like we were saying, characters, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, creating jewelry like this in the 70s and
But there
stuff
was
because
like
he was
Ed
such a
Hardy
character.
that's
you know?
wonderful in San Francisco. You got Lyle getting all the accolades, you know, and here's Ed Hardy, one of the best tattoo. When I learned, it was Ed Hardy, Cliff Raven, Don Nolan. That was 3 top tattoo artists anywhere, you know. And Ed Hardy was, you know, you're just like, wow. Raven and Nolan did Japanese work. Hardy did everything because he's a printmaker. You know, he's a fine artist.
Yeah.
And Lyle just said I was right place at the right time. He had that long hair and sideburns. The hippie thing come. He's in.
Tattooed the right person.
He's
and
in, you know, Life magazine. He's in Rolling Stones. Tattooed.
he had the
Janis
right
Joplin.
look for when it popped
Tattooed
up.
Janis Joplin. He just become the cool guy. You know, and he was cool. You know?
He was super cool. I mean, even when I met him in the
He's super cool. Man.
70s and 60s, I think I met him, wow, he was probably 60 first time I met him.
Yeah.
And we were doing the New Orleans Voodoo Fest Tattoo Expo with
Yeah.
Ralph. We used to do that every year and just sit there with him and just listen to some of the
You
stories.
couldn't
and-
be any cooler than Lyle. I mean, he was smart. He was a showman.
What
he
was
was a
cool
nice
was-
looking guy. I mean, he probably had more women than, you know, he looked like Clint Eastwood when he was young to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, he raced cars, he rode motorcycles, he was
Right.
in the Korean War, he got wounded. I mean, they should have made a movie. It should have been Lyle Tuttleware is what it should have been.
Yeah.
Because he was just,
There should be a real
he
movie of
was just
him.
this character, you know. I mean, he just did everything, dude, you know.
One of the funnest times I remember is I actually got stuck with these characters, Eddie and Lyle, at a table together.
Oh, yeah.
And just to hear those two go back, because they weren't necessarily like against each other, but they weren't
They
necessarily
were buddies a long time ago. As they got older, they were
Yeah, and they were slightly older, but then just to hear the two of them talk and then like
Yeah.
go back and forth, so who's doing what?
And I met Eddie when I was very young. I went out there
California,
and-
New York, two different sides.
And most people kick your ass out of the shop, and he'd give me like the nickel tour. You know, he was real nice, so that's why I always liked Eddie. He'd say, "Oh, come on in. Would you like a nice tea?" You know, and every time I draw a flash, he'd go, "Hey, Dana, sell me the first set." And I said, "Well, I just sold 3 sets." He goes, "Just write the first set on mine." I said, "Okay." So I'd write number 1 set. Yeah, he'd always call Dana Brunson. This is Crazy Eddie. I go, "Yeah, who the fuck else sounds like that?" Who else talks like that? Dana, how's it going, baby? His favorite thing, he'd say, "Dana," he always called me Dana. "Dana, you know where the worst place to get tattooed?" I go, "Yeah, you're ribs." He goes, "Cincinnati." Hey, that's the kind of shit I like, you know.
Yeah, he was a funny
Oh,
guy.
he's funny as shit, you know.
He told me he started painting seashells on the beach for like 25 cents a shell,
Did he?
putting names and stuff on there.
I've got all Eddie's books. I said, dude, I'll just change the name to Dana in there, and it'll sound like I had this great adventure. 'Cause, I mean, they're just crazy, you know. And they just, you know, they'd all. I mean, like Spalding Rogers and all. They all went to Alaska and worked. Total went there. There was a big sportsman club there. Anywhere there was money, they'd go. You know, military base, follow the fair. I mean,
Well, that's the importance right there of looking into knowing the history is those guys who kind of created the whole convention aspect and
Yeah.
let's travel and make money and and network together. Like I mean, it's cool because to see Buddy, he'll post pictures or like pictures of letters that that Charlie and Paul had actually wrote back and forth,
Yeah.
or Charlie and Lyle and all these different people. I'm like, man, these guys actually used to take time to write each other. Now we'll take the time to push a little hard on your.
well, all the pictures I got from D.C. Paul's Al Shifley, and the first convention was in 1956 in Sandusky. And it was in Al Shifley's backyard. And he drew a lot of flies for Spalding Rogers. It's a little shed, and it's D.C. Paul, Spalding Rogers, Les Hughes flew over from England in 1956. Dude. Wow, it had been a big deal.
Oh yeah, the fly from
Milton
England.
Zeiss, I think Colonel. There was like 20 guys, and that was the first convention. They were getting together to share information about tattooing and drink beer. And that little shed's still up in Sandusky. I went up and visited that little shed.
Didn't somebody just buy that?
No, they bought Paul Rogers'
Oh,
shed.
Paul's shed,
Yeah,
not
Brandon Feldman bought it from Tom Beasley. It was just a metal shed. But now he's kind of tried to renovate it, make it look how all good. I mean, I've been in that shed, but it's just a damn corrugated metal shed that was hot. He built machines in there. He hand cut them out. People would come from all over the world. Like Huck went on to be a multimillionaire. Paul lived in about a $5,000 mobile home in Florida and had this little metal shed. And he'd go out there and build machines. Had guys from all over the world come to visit him because he was just like the epitome of a nice guy.
Right.
He'd share everything with you. He'd show you how he makes
The difference in becoming a millionaire and living in a $5,000 trailer, right?
Oh yeah. Well, D.C. Paul said him and Paul both could have been in on Spalding's Enterprise, and they just opted out of it. Huck like had snake shows and all that shit, and then he got with Paul, and Paul told him about machines, and Huck started making all that shit in his basement and stuff, and became the world's biggest. I mean, Huck was a multi-millionaire. He was a big game hunter and had race cars, and and I've met Huck a time or two, but I'd go down and visit Paul. He was just a wonderful guy. And he had taught D.C. Paul, my guy. He was in the Korean War.
The guy takes place in a shed. The first tattoo expo takes place in a shed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that shed's still up there. In Sandusky, I went up and I said, "This may sound weird, but is this where Al Shifley lived?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "These tattoos were by Al Shifley." Fucking cool. I said, "Can I see that little shed?" And he goes, "Sure." He goes, "I get people coming up there." And he said, "I got something you might like." I go, "What is that?" He said, "Well, we re-sided this shed and then we re-roofed it, and I found these flyers, and they were a big stack of Al Shifley flyers from 1959. He goes, "You interested in these?" I go, "Hell yeah."
So did you get them from him?
Oh yeah, I bought them from them. I still got a stack of them.
That's cool that he thought about it.
I was selling them $100 a piece because then you print out a picture of Al Shifley in front of the shed in Sandusky, and it makes a wonderful display. And they've got the little Sandusky Tattoo Club stamp on them, like, "Hi, I'm Al Shifley, I've tattooed so many years." It's a yellow page about that big. There aren't any. I've got them.
Yeah.
And those have been in that attic all those years. The first ones were kind of mildewed.
From
and
the 50s all the way to...
Yeah, it was
so
59,
50+
and I
years.
went up there maybe 10 years ago, 2000 something, and they're 50 years old.
57 years old.
Yeah, yeah. And then Al Shifley's son lived around the corner, Dale. And he said, "Well, he lives around the corner." So I asked the postman, I said, "Can you tell me where Dale Shifley lives?" He goes, "No." He goes, "We can't do that." He said, "But he's got a new truck." And he looked over at this truck. And so that was his house. So I went up and knocked on the door. I said, "I'm Dana Brunson, and I learned from you." "Oh, come on in." He was real nice. He worked for Ford, but him and his dad tattooed together out of that little shed every night. Al worked for the railroad. And then at night, it was a part-time job.
Right.
But he drew a lot of flash from
He's
Spalding and
going
Rogers.
to be a part-time now.
No shit. And he had that big Jesus on a cross. Spalding and Rogers did that on Al Shifley's back. But
Who actually did the tattoo on him?
Well, it was Spalding and Rogers. One in
Both
line
of
and one in shade. I never figured. They're flash. One in draw it and one in shade it. And it's not spit shading. It's crosshatch shading. And I wish I'd asked Paul, because I don't know. Because they're all signed Spalding and Rogers. They aren't Paul Rogers flash, they're Spalding and Rogers flash. And those are the real sheets. These are production sheets. These are ones they sold because they got a little number in the corner. Those have like a letter. Those are the originals. I probably got about 20 or 30 of the originals.
I have a bunch of production sheets. I've been posting them lately, the
Yeah.
little old cool ones and stuff.
Yeah, but these were out of the shop too. I mean, all this was from D.C. Paul's shop. I bought his collection. You know, he retired and all that shit was in an old shed. And I go, you want to sell it? He goes, hell yeah. It was like raining, the shed's leaking. Hell, that neon is out of Dave Paul's shop. I got a big piece that says shop, but I just put the tattoo up. But that was out of Spalding and Rogers' shop, and I put a new transformer on it.
That's pretty cool though. You got the actual neon from Spalding and
Oh, he gave me a
Rogers.
file cabinet, and I just went, I took all the files and just dumped all the stencils in a big box, because they were all like snakes, eagles, and they're all only about that big, you know, because they did military tattooing. Said Nolan's got stencils, you know, back stencils.
Yeah, but then they were just doing bangers basically.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a big tattoo. They do a Battle Royal back piece was $350 in '71. That's what it costs for an eagle and a snake and a dragon.
That shows the difference in economy.
$350. Well, I was making $75 a week as an E5 in the Army. So I got out and then I tattooed them outlaws all weekend, making $100. So I was, you know, rich.
He said, so I was rich.
I came to Cincinnati, made $200 a week. And I'm fuck, yeah, I'm buying a new car. Like I'm baller, you know.
Yeah. Now it's $200 an hour.
Yeah, yeah. 2,000 for me.
Yeah, 2,000. I know you guys don't believe it. I just golfed in my leg here.
Oh,
I'm
me
leaving
too.
my other leg here.
He's
because
had a
of-
piece that big. He said it took Jack Rudy 3 hours of doing it, charged him $2,000. It was like a Mexican girl's face, just single needle. He goes, that was $2,000. So I just raised my price to $2,000 an hour. Because I'm older than Jack Rudy. But Jack was, you know, king of the black and gray and stuff. I mean, he still, you know, could do it. He only tattoos if he wants to, you know.
Right.
And I do too, you know, I just tattoo when I want to. I either do Japanese or I do early work. I don't do tribal or Celtic or anything. I've done it. I don't want to do it. I don't like it.
How many days a week do you tattoo now?
Usually about 3. I come in 2 or 3.
That's not so bad.
Do 1 or 2. I mean, I just live around the corner, so. Right. And when I'm not doing anything, I come over and clean and hang out. Kind of my second house.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun for me. I mean, you know, like I said, I was hoping my son took it over. He tattooed 25 years, my wife tattooed 30 years. And my grandson's into jazz trombone. He didn't give a shit about that. So, you know, I'm trying to get him to come over. He hasn't been in my house about 2 years. I mean, I see him every month or 2. And I message him, but I mean, he doesn't have a clue if that's worth $1 or $500.
Right.
He just doesn't have a clue. And he's our sole heir, so, you know, he'll get whatever the fuck he wants. You know, he gets my house and anything he wants, you know. But I kind of like him to know kind of the value of some stuff. You know, it might be nice instead of throwing it all in the trash can. Like, I was old paper, fuck that. You know? But yeah, it's been fun for me. I mean, I like conventions and I still like tattooing, you know. Something that, you know, I still enjoy traditional. I'm not a big Sailor Jerry fan because that's kind of stuff I learned on. I like this. This is the 30s flash from Germany, Christian Varlick, and he tattooed during the Nazi era. He was the first guy in Germany with an electric machine. You know, he was probably a Nazi because he tattooed the Nazis. But I went to Hamburg, Germany for a retrospect of his show. But that stuff, see, it's just cooler than this stuff. It's just got a whole different look. That 1920s stuff, you know, it's got a whole different look than the 50s. Not, it just got simpler and simpler, so guys could just bang it out, you know. But yeah, it's been fun now. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there was that many old Shanghai Kate just died. She tattooed about as long as me, but she was older. She was 78 or 79 or.
What'd you mainly tattoo out of?
You know, I don't know. I mean, she'd always talk about going visiting Sailor Jerry. That was just a couple of weeks. Her and Mike Malone, Ed Hardy, and them all went over there. And I know once she was tattooing in New York. She was living in Austin.
I've heard stories of her from everywhere, so I never knew where she was actually from.
I don't have a clue. I visited her last year, and I was going to visit her this year. Her husband's Ross, the nicest guy in the world. And she passed away. So I saw Ross at the convention, you know.
Texas this week.
Yeah, he's a lot younger than Kate, but man, he was like a godsend. I mean, he did everything for Kate, you know. He's really, really a good guy. And me and Kate had spats over the year, but then we kind of made up, and you know, she was real nice, you know, to me. You know, she knew Sailor Jerry because of Malone and Ed Hardy and her and all went over to some meeting of the mines with Sailor Jerry. I never met Sailor Jerry, He died a couple years after I started. Coleman died a couple years after I started. Plus, I didn't give a shit, Like Eddie said, fuck Sailor Jerry. No, I mean, I didn't have a clue. But I did get to meet a lot of the old guys at the very first tattoo convention, Milo Anthony and Bob Shaw and Doc Webb.
I got some cool Shaw stuff. I bought an old book off of Snake down in Florida, and it had a West Virginia Tattoo Expo 1989 or something.
Oh yeah, okay.
And it's got a picture of Doc Webb in there. It's all signed. I got a message to whoever the lady was that was running the show.
Yeah, Don Lucas owns most of the Doc Webb stuff, him and Eddie Savage. Don Lucas is in New Orleans, and he bought Doc Webb's collection a long time. And Doc Webb was a collector. So not only did he get his flash, he got all this early flash because he bought his collection. And then Don Lucas wrote the book on Paul Rogers. He interviewed him, wrote the book.
It's so cool that so many books have come out like that.
Yeah.
Not just the books that people are putting
Well,
out.
it was all
for collection.
lost, Nobody recorded that shit,
Yeah.
And the one guy did the Dietzel book, and that's a cool book.
I have those. It's cool. I went to
Ryder. I think
They actually had a full, Milwaukee, the art museum in Milwaukee had a full
Yeah,
display of it. I went to it, and it was
Really?
really cool. They had all the.
yeah, I mean,
Dietzel
Edmund
stuff
Dietzel
there.
could certainly draw,
Well, he was tied to Fred Clark from Indiana.
Yeah.
Like, Dietzel did all Fred's work and vice versa. So they did a lot of work on each other.
Right.
And Fred Clark's shop was actually on Washington Street where my shop was,
Yeah.
obviously, decades ago. But
He's buried in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
he's buried out there with my wife's, because I'm from Indianapolis originally. I think he's buried out in the same cemetery. But yeah, Fred Clark, I mean, I've got a Clark machine. I don't have any Fred Clark stuff, but I've got a Dietzel machine that's got Fred Clark's initials.
Oh,
on it.
that's really cool.
That Nate Harmon wants, because he got the other one
Yeah.
off Ron Higdon, and they both come from Donnie Mueller.
Oh, really?
There was a guy in
Well, the
Indi-
cool thing is because that's why I was trying to talk Harmon out of it, because I'm like, but he's still in Indiana, so I know he can come. I'm like, man, it's Indiana, I gotta have that.
He's
man.
offered me $4,500 for that machine, and I said, I'll sell it to you, and it's not ready to sell it.
Yeah.
The Dietzel machines are really hard, but it's got FSC.
There's not a lot of Dietzel
Fred's-
machines anyway, and then the Fred Clark one.
Just Fred Smokey Clark is the initials.
Smokey on there.
But a guy walked in down Mueller's shop years ago and sold him this great big collection for like $150. And he got 2 Dietzel machines and a whole bunch of shit. And I got that Dietzel off of.
I mean, both of them have a significant impact, so it's.
Oh, man. Well, like I said, that trunk I've got in my house, that looks like Fred Clark's trunk, and Dietzel built Fred Clark's trunk. So I'm 100%, 99% sure he built that trunk I got.
Yeah, the big one sitting at your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The real thing.
It's nice.
Yeah. And that guy used to work for J.F. Barber, that little sign up there, that's on canvas. That guy's name is Wilson. And J.F. Barber was here in the 20s. He sold supplies downtown, and he did Cap Coleman's bodysuit. But J.F. Barber, I've got some of his flash now. He's down on Vine Street. He's buried here in Cincinnati. But a woman put some of his flash on eBay. Well, I went up there, and that was her step-grandfather, was Wilson. And he drew a lot of the flash for J.F. Barber. Barber would hire artists to draw the flash to sell it.
Yeah, and put their name on it, so a lot of the
He
flash
put
wasn't
his
even.
name. But that was his banner, man. It's like World War I think. I mean, it's really cool. She finally sold me his banner, and then that's his little sign below it. Says designer. What was his name? Frank Wilson? Fred Wilson?
Frank Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, look at how nice that lettering is. But see, look at that. I think that banner, I think that might be World War I. Well, it has to
Is
be.
that the real banner, or is that just a copy?
Oh, that's a real banner. It's on canvas. See, artistic, sacred World War designs. Oriental. No, that's his banner.
That's wild.
She finally sold me that. I bought a bunch of, I bought a J.F. Barber book off of her, then I bought a bunch of flash off of her, and I was after that, and I did an article on her for Skin and Ink, and she took the money from the flash and bought him a tombstone. And then she called and said, hey, Dane, everybody's saying, you're tricking me on price. I paid you whatever you asked. She said, well, everybody's after that banner, and I want you to have it. She sold me that for $1,500. And that's killer. It's on cloth. I mean, it's really, that should have been in the book, and it didn't make the book, and I don't know why. What's it say in there?
You got so much stuff you didn't realize it.
Lodge emblems, some shit. But that's a World War I Red Cross nurse. And like I said, so, well, that's probably the main, and the ship. Yeah, that's such a cool piece, man. It hangs up there, I forget it's even there. That's like, you know, real museum piece. Yeah, weird.
I don't know. I think most of the stuff in here is real museum pieces. I mean,
Yeah, I wish there was a real museum. I'd leave some stuff, but if you give it to the Smithsonian, it just gets archived. You know, like
They don't display it really.
Cap Coleman stuff's in the Newport Maritime Museum, and you can go down there and get an appointment, go in the back room and see it. He's got 2 sheets of flash, this big he did for the museum in the 30s, and he's got the statue of the man out of the window. It's in the window, and they'll let you see it and take pictures of it. You just can't publish them. But it's never on display. You know, it probably is every 100 years. Or
See, that's why I wanted to create the Indiana Tattoo Archive,
Yeah.
so it could be an actual place that it was always on display, you know.
It'd be nice, man. I mean, I've got, you know, those trunks and all that shit out, sideshow banners. I mean, that shit should be,
I mean, you guys think there's a lot of stuff here. You go to Dana's house, and it's
it
like
should be on display though.
She's just in the middle of it.
Yeah, if you display it all just to inspire people, to show people where it came from, and it marks such a time. And
Well, the Smithsonian,
this time period, what was
I went
happening in
years
the
ago,
country.
the Smithsonian had a display like a mannequin guy tattoo, and then they had some flash, and I don't know whose flash it was, because I wasn't very that interested in it. But if they had a whole folk art thing, I'd donate some stuff to the Smithsonian.
Yeah,
Because it's just, everybody's got these private museums. Well, what happens, they close and then all your shit gets kept, like Lyle Tuttle. You know, he'd say, donate this to the museum. Well, the museum never happened, but he never gave nothing back. I mean, Lyle just did that, you know.
yeah. Oh yeah, so you donated to like.
You
someone
donated, wait for him, he called me after Jay's Fest, what are you gonna do with all that stuff? I'm still gonna open a museum, you know, and I said, well, sure in the hell ain't gonna sell it, that's what I'm not gonna do. But,
You open
Dave,
a museum and it actually opens the doors. I'll bring some stuff by there for a while.
that's right, well, you gotta be a multimillionaire, you gotta buy the building, you gotta have enough money in the bank that it perpetuates the repair, the utilities, you know, forever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, you know, because somebody's gonna die and then somebody's gonna keep all the shit in the museum.
That's why I wanted to try to make it where it was part of my functioning tattoo studio.
That,
so you know, I
that's
had
where
a
they
functioning
all are.
tattoo
Like
studio.
Nick Knee Tattoo,
they all
that's
have
in the
to have
supply business. Mine's here, free to look at.
The tattoo studio is actually the business. The museum is just the decor on
That's
the wall.
what Gideon's got, that monster collection. He's a supplier. I said, why don't you get a warehouse, make it a museum, and write the business off for that? But he doesn't.
What's he do with all his? Is it
It's
just,
in boxes and he shares it online. I mean, he does share everything. Tattoo Collection EU.
yeah.
And he shares everything he buys, which is rare because a lot of collectors won't share anything. You know, it's they.
But what's the point in collecting if you're not sharing it? Because like I mean,
Well,
I think there's an importance to
It's just
sharing it.
minimal. I mean, I know guys just won't share anything. That's mine. Yeah, but you didn't do it.
You
know.
didn't do it, and like, what good's it gonna do?
And what good's it doing? Yeah, I share all my stuff, and I tell kids take it, tattoo it, paint pictures of it, whatever the hell they want to do. I didn't do it. I'm just lucky enough to own it, you know. But Gideon shares everything. It's just called Tattoo Collection EU because he's from Amsterdam, and he shares everything he buys. But
That's a show we need to go do, Colin.
Yeah,
Amsterdam show.
yeah, I'm going.
We might blend in just a little bit there.
we'll blend in perfectly there.
I'm going. It's in September. It's fun. It's out on a little island. You take a little ferry out to it. It takes about 5 minutes on this little ferry. And it's like an old warehouse. I mean, it's the new venue. But that was like a deserted island. Now there's a graffiti museum out there and high-rise apartments and shit. But that's where the convention is.
Nice.
And Amsterdam is just cool. Amsterdam is just cool. Amsterdam is just like you're in Disneyland. I mean, the architecture and the canals and all. It's just cool to walk around the whole.
The city's neat.
And there's a million museums in Amsterdam, and you know, if you smoke weed, it's legal in Amsterdam. You know, you can go to all the coffee shops and sit outside. And,
I didn't know it was illegal anywhere, actually, the way I smoke.
yeah, well,
It
they
doesn't
say
act like it's illegal.
they say it's really not legal in Amsterdam. They just don't care. I mean, you can
Yeah,
buy
there's
everybody
other
sitting
stuff to
outside.
Well,
worry
you know, it's
about.
funny. I just seen something they was telling about over actually Ohio the other day with assault weapons. They said that the governor, mayor, whatever, somebody governor here signed that it's illegal, but 90 counties sheriffs said that they would not enforce it because
Right.
you know what I mean, like basically to own a.
Well, a lot of those countries, I don't know if Amsterdam, but you know, a lot of them give clean hypodermic needles to junkies and all. They just accept it. Well, you know, they have a red light district, they have prostitution. Just nobody thinks nothing of it. You know, that's all.
You do it, go to that street. If you don't, stay off that street.
That's right. Oh yeah, they have like sex shops and all. You walk by live sex on stage stores. Nobody thinks nothing. You know, woman's walking with her kids. They don't think nothing of it. That's just part of the culture. You know. But they have killer museums in Amsterdam. Hanky Panky had a museum
They
there.
got some cool tattoo museums over in that area.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, Rambo's museum. He posts a lot of cool stuff over
Yeah,
there.
that's in his shop. I mean,
Oh, is that just in the shop?
Yeah, that's upstairs. He's got like a 4 or 5 story building in Manchester, and he just rents a booth to a guy now. I mean, he doesn't even run the shop. He rents a booth to a guy named Stephen Byrne. But if you know him, he'll take you upstairs and there's a couple floors of stuff. But then all his really good stuff's at his house out in the village.
Oh, yeah. Do you think that like the European and American tattooing really collided together at a certain point that helped
Yeah.
each other?
Yeah.
Like the 50s, was that probably when it happened, when they were
Sure.
coming over here for
Sure,
research?
yeah. Yeah, the Bristol Tattoo Club, Lesky started at 53. Excuse.
Oh, the pendant up there,
And
yeah.
that's Jimmy Scuse's grandfather. And then his son, Danny and Billy both tattooed, and then Jimmy tattooed. But Les started the club with the bat in 53 to kind of for the betterment of tattooing. Les was a postman. You know, did it outside, but he flew over here in 56 for this tattoo convention. That would have been a big deal. That would have been like one of them movies where you're in the big prop plane, you know, and the little maps going along, you know, and that would have cost a hell of a lot of money in 1956, dude.
To fly here?
Yeah.
And just for tattooing, just to make tattooing
You're gonna
better.
fly from Bristol, England, and end up in Sandusky, Ohio in 1956. That'd been a damn adventure. I'd like going to the jungle or something.
Yeah.
But they've had recordings of Les, and Les was real intelligent, you know, and he was really into the betterment of tattooing. He was voted like the best tattoo artist in England, you know, in the 50s and stuff. And then when Les died, his son Danny inherited the collection, and Jimmy wasn't tattooing, so Danny sold most of it to Hanky Panky and to Rambo. Jimmy wasn't interested in it, and then he kind of got back interested, and it's all gone.
Too late at that point.
It's all gone.
Man, that's that fascinating. I think in 1953, somebody was thinking about creating an organization to make
Yeah.
tattooing better.
Yeah.
Like somebody then had the vision that it was going to grow to.
Yeah, they're like,
this
oh, we'll all
massive
get
thing.
together and try to make it better, and you know, better equipment and better, you know.
Help spread the knowledge
Yeah.
between each other and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, that's a hell of a journey. And then I think after that, Al Shifley went over to England. That's a hell of an adventure, you know. Man, 56 flying in an airplane, and he's a postman. You know, you're not going to be rich in being a postman.
Imagine how much it costs to fly to England in 1956.
God, I can't even fucking imagine, dude. That'd be, like I said, it'd be one of the Clark Gable movies, you know, with the stewardess eating like a steak and
Yeah, on white
twin
service.
props, you know. But I had heard of Les Skews from DC Paul because they were all at the first convention. So he's like, this is Les Skews from England. So then years later, I see Bristol Tattoo Club on the internet. I contact him. It's Jimmy Skews. It's Les's grandson.
So did you ever join the club?
Oh, sure I did. Yeah, I used to be the guy that sold the memberships here because I'm friends with Jimmy. And then Bickney did it for a while. And now it's just kind of, it's cool. You know,
They still have it? Is it Bristol
Oh, yeah,
Tattoo
yeah,
Club
yeah,
still
you can
exists?
join it. It's real cheap.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like, I don't know, it's like $20, $30 to join it, but the t-shirt's cool because it's that real crazy bat, you know, and they say Bristol Tattoo Club, but it kind of looks like a real folk art biker bat. I love the t-shirt, you know. But Jimmy, yeah, you can get online at Bristol Tattoo Club. Jimmy Skews runs it.
And what do they do now? Do they still do stuff to advance the
Yeah.
tattooing or just more?
No, Jimmy shares, like, Jimmy will go to conventions. Jimmy's a good historian. But it used to be like Dano was on there and me and Rambo, and we'd all collect and kind of dig each other. And then there got to be some internal arguments and all kind of fell apart, which sucks, you know, personal problems.
Tears apart something that was really a foundation to helping them.
Yeah,
tattoo
but
and
then there
grow
starts
and-
being pettiness and jealousy and who got what. I mean, I used to be happy, like, hey, guy, I found this and that. Fuck yeah, that's fucking cool, you know. Then it started being
Shitty because you found it and you weren't selling it to them.
kind of snakes or something. Yeah, it just turned into, I mean, we all went to Philly years ago. There's a picture of Shanghai Kate, Eddie, Stanley, Lyle Tuttle, all these guys from England.
Well, it's a series.
Steve Crane,
So
Jimmy
this is like
Skews, Rambo,
I don't know if I'll do the whole thing.
Jason Davis, all these guys came over to the Philly convention. It was killer. It's never going to happen again. Artoria Gibbons' daughter was there. It was just once in a lifetime.
moment.
That many people. So.
That many people from all over, and
Yeah.
that many people
Yeah,
that are
and all
the
those old
foundation
guys
of
were
it.
there. Yeah,
I mean, it's
LaDan
though.
Peace just passed away. You know,
Who?
LaDan
Just
Peace,
like-
that
it's
was
like you have
Texan
your-
Man Pieces. They were old tattoo artists. And LaDan's got a real big Coleman collection. He just passed like a couple months ago. And his wife still tattoos, and his
Which I'm
son
excited
tattoos.
about because I first.
But he'd bring
You
the
did
big
stuff, it's
Coleman
like, I
collection
like it,
because his
some
dad and
of
his
it,
mother were
I
both
think
tattoo artists,
But it's
Texan
nice
and
that, like,
Peace.
sometimes like you want.
And my dad was a really
Like,
nice guy,
sometimes
but he just
it's like-
passed away. You know, that just ain't gonna happen again. All those guys are
It's
dead.
really
you know.
hard for me to get into.
It's crazy though to think about that, like you say that, because like there, that was really neat. And then at Indy the first year, I had Monty Agee come up to me, and he was just excited because like the expo brought together everybody that was in the shop when he was an apprentice, and now he's 25 years in, and he got to get a picture with him and his brother and all the 4 guys who taught him. And he's like, I would have never thought that would happen. So that's the importance about tattoo
Yeah, well,
conventions.
it's
I think
cool. You know, I mean,
sometimes.
it's such a guard that used to be so, nobody wanted to talk to anybody or share information because then you're going to take money from their mouth. I've always shared anything. You ask me where I get machines, I'll tell you. Where I get needles, I'll tell you. I mean, who cares? If I can't keep up with
Doing a good
it.
job, you won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's my problem. Yeah, if I can't keep up with it. But I think you ought to share stuff. Paul Rogers would share everything, and to me, he was the epitome of the nice tattoo guy. I mean, what's the
We're mostly
fucking
working
secret?
from. We're working.
The secret's how talented you are. You know?
Yeah. You can spread the talent, not just the knowledge.
I'd buy every machine, I'd try every needle, every way you mixed ink, and at the end I wrote, there is no rule of thumb. It's just how talented you are. It's what you do with whatever machine you've got.
That's a very good statement.
And a lot of it's just, a God's gift. You can learn to tattoo. I can learn to tattoo, and I can draw.
I teach you
But
to
I
tattoo
can't
ourselves.
paint like that. I can't do it. I can't pinstripe. I've tried to pinstripe. I go about this far. And other people can't tattoo. So I still do an okay tattoo. I set the world on fire, but I've been in it a long time. I'm one of the older guys that tattoo now, which I don't feel old, and I feel just like Paul over there. It doesn't feel any different to me. It's still all new to me. I still enjoy looking at tattooing and going to conventions and,
Well, I think it's cool how you just come to conventions and sit there and talk and tell these stories to.
Well, it's because there's some guys that are, if nobody was interested and everything was brand new photorealism, I wouldn't go to a convention. But there was a big resurgence of traditional tattooing, which is cool. Like pig pants, bell bottoms, ducktails, it all goes around. So I thought traditional tattooing was pretty well dead when the Japanese stuff come out. And now it's like, it's like oil painters, and it blows your mind what they can do. But it's still kind of interesting to go back to traditional tattooing,
Well, it's the foundation, and it's like you said, if you can lay down the good base of it, then you can almost figure anything out.
If somebody come in there and I looked at their portfolio and had real clean, classic, traditional tattooing, that's all they need to do. But then if they say, well, I'm an artist too, well, hell yeah, because you know how to do the basic, It's not a trick, you're not doing a trick, you've got the basic. You don't have to know how to make needles or nothing. If you want to learn, go learn, but I don't want to make them anymore. I know how to mix ink, but I don't want to do that shit. It's a nasty job,
I always think that it would be neat if people didn't have to do it just for the aspect of realizing how convenient their career is now.
Oh God, you just
You
don't
know, I mean, what you get
care.
paid now, the convenience of your career now versus the aspect of actually
When
having
I learned, he
to mix
wouldn't
your,
tell me where he got
pigments up,
this
make
stuff.
your needles. all
DC
that.
Paul said, give me the money and I'll order the stuff for you. He didn't even tell me where he got it. It was
Yeah,
from
the
Spalding
secret.
and Rogers. And I'd go up to somebody's shop like Jan's or somebody in Columbus and I'd be looking around like, oh, look at the name on those needles. It'd be National Needle Company out of New York. Well, they're just a big needle supplier. Sail needles, sewing machine needles, all the needles were made in England. They just imported needles. It wasn't nothing to do with tattooing. They just imported eyeless needles, and then that was big business to them. You're selling straight pins, all of a sudden you're selling tattoo needles. When I first learned tattoo needles, I don't know if there's any there, but they're little packs of number 12 sewing needles with my eye on them, and they solder those together.
With the eye on them?
With the eye on, they're just regular sewing needles. Millards and stuff. I've got little packs of them at home, and they're just little tiny.
They used to tape their bottles and stuff so people couldn't go in the shop and peek what it was. Like they would put covers over your stuff so that you walked in there, you were going to be nosy and see what I was using.
That's why most Zeiss Bakelite machines that have Zeiss supply on the side, they'd scrape the damn decal off, and it's worth a whole hell of a lot more if you got the decal, which I have. But they scraped it up because they want nobody to know anything. And I'd say Sailor Jerry had set up a machine, artist coming, yeah, here's what I use, and it's all fucked up. He wanted them to think that's what machine he used. You know, it was just a real secretive asshole bunch of people. You know, what do you mix the ink with monkey pee or something? You know, I mean,
Something silly just to keep you off tilt.
just to keep you from opening next to him. Well, that barn door is open. You know,
Yeah, people open it
that
up.
horse is left. You know, every week somebody's in there. Well, my kid wants to learn to tattoo. Go ahead. I don't give a shit. I'm at the end of my career.
I feel like there should be still some like.
I don't
have
know
to
if I
do
could
some of
get.
the old school stuff though, just so that you can.
I probably wouldn't
earn
get
it,
any
you don't take
tattooing
advantage of
today.
it.
I mean, it's just too mainstream for me. I never wanted anything mainstream. I got a tattoo because it was real weird. I rode little choppers and all, because not everybody rode a Harley Davidson. And now it's just so mainstream. I never wanted to be mainstream. And I can't compete with the photo realist artist. And I get why people get that because it's beautiful. You know, but somebody do a portrait this big, that's gonna be a piece of shit in 2 years. I watch them do it, they're barely scratching the skin, they're doing the Mona Lisa. And I'm like, God, it's fucking beautiful, but it ain't gonna stay. I'm living proof, I've done all that.
He said,
It goes
anything
away.
looks good for 5 years, but what's it look like in 25 years?
Single needle turns to shit. I mean, those are all single needle lines that all blurred together.
Single needle look like 14 round now.
And all these guys using 11 and 14 rounds to make it look old, but those lines are gonna be that fat. And you know, when I learned, all this stuff was 5 needle liners. Nobody used an 11 needle liner. Used 5 needle liners and 6 flat shaders. They're big because they're old. And those big old blue ones on themselves, that's just because they put in so goddamn deep and all, you know, the machines hit like jackhammers, you know.
And you got
Some of those
a little bit
machines,
less knowledge, so
some of
guys
those
just-
machines, you have to pull the spring down like that, you know, you're like, God damn, you know.
Imagine how bad that thing is just
Oh, man, you
hitting
know,
that skin.
it knocks you out. No, I wish I knew more of history. I mean, there's some great historians, like Carmen Nyson or whatever. She's on Instagram. She does Buzzworth or something.
Yeah, Dave actually talked to her, and she was going to come and speak at Indy about something. She had somebody.
She's like Burt Grimm's relative.
Yeah, and she
Like
was
that
going to come and speak at
great uncle.
Indy.
You could show her this. She'll find out where the guy's buried, his name, what he did for a living. She's a wonderful historian. Paul Rose, a great historian. Paul Sayce in England. He's a Mensa member. He knows everything about tattooing. If he wanted to interview Ed Hardy, he'd get on a plane, fly, and go, "Hi, I'm Paul Sayce, and I'm here to interview you from England." I mean, he's a genius, you know. But you know, most of the people aren't. Jimmy Skuse is a really good historian, you know, especially on British tattoo.
What do you think locally around here?
I don't know.
We're in Indiana, they're Ohio, so I was thinking like really around here, Buddy, Wheeler, yourself,
Big
Dave, Big Knee. And Dave don't even display his. This is just a personal. It's all in his.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be nice if he had somewhere to display it, but his shop's smaller than this.
Yeah, that's what people say. Yeah, I go, I'm not a historian, dude. I just collect stuff. And I've tattooed for 50 years.
You got
so-
some good stories to go with it.
Well, of
too.
course, I met those guys, but I mean, I'm not a historian, you know. Well, it started, you know, I know it started turn of the century, and Samuel Riley, you know, invented the electric machine. I know all that shit. But I'm not, you know, a real historian.
Break it down. Well, that's why I tell people that's why I collect it, is so that I can start to learn it and know it. And the more I'm around, the more I remember. My memory's terrible, so I just need a million historians.
Brad Fink's got a great collection in New York. And then you can go up there, and the girl that he's partners with, they take you on a walking tour where the first shops were, like Charlie Wagner. Samuel Riley was the guy that invented the electric tattoo machine off of an Edison perforator. You know. I've got an Edison, and I've got the only 2 Samuel Riley cars known in the world. And those aren't in the book. You know, I show them to people. Yeah. Yeah, I've got an Edison.
You said 6 of those in the world?
No, there's about 60 of them. There were hundreds of thousands of them. There's about 60 of them listed on the Edison register. Like Jimmy's got one, Rambo's got one.
It's not really
5 or 6 of these tattooists own them, but they were made to perforate paper, and then it was like a mimeograph, and then when the typewriter come out, it just killed it. But it's actually a rotary with 2 coils, and the guy saw it. The only real O'Reilly machine, Chuck Eldridge owns, and it's got a bigger flywheel on it, and that was out of Cap Coleman. Paul Rogers got it from Cap Coleman, and that's the only one known in the world. And
Only one?
Only one.
So only one real O'Reilly machine.
Samuel O'Reilly machine. What's that sort of? I don't have a clue. But that was in the Coleman laughter. They said Paul Rogers said it was wrapped in a rag, and then when Paul died, he had it, so he donated it to Chuck. And I've held it and looked at it. It just looks like a giant Edison. And Edison flywheel's about that big, and O'Reilly's about that big. But that's when they'd say painless electric tattooing, because before that it was all done with hands. You know, like J.F. Barber and all those guys. I mean, they were all like hand tattooers. Like, well, there used to be some little sticks. I don't know if they're like little ivory bobbins and stuff that they'd mix up, and they just tie little needles on them. And, you know, like on a ship, it was all hand poke tattooing. And the electric machine revolutionized that, you know. I mean, a couple thousand times a minute, you know.
Pretty wild to hand poke on.
Well, now you go back and there's girls that, you know, in Rome and all, and they've got a needle bar and they're hand poking tattoos.
So there's people around here that do it too. They sell machines now that are just
Yeah, you put the
weighted
needle
and you just put the needle in there just for that.
There's a guy I know named Torola that's in Norway, and he wrote a book on Norwegian, like Viking
I think
tattooing.
that's cool when it reverts back though. People start doing that.
He hand pokes, and he freehands Celtic designs on people and hand pokes it, and it looks like it's done with a machine. This guy's as good as it gets, and he's a really nice guy. He'll be an Amsterdam. He's a really nice guy, but he'll draw all these old Celtic sleeves on and hand
Crazy how they
poke.
keep the straight lines in there.
He uses like a little pin vise, and he just puts the thing that he can sterilize, and he just puts it in, and he just. But his lines, man, it'll blow your mind. I'm looking up.
That is wild.
I met him, and he's just really nice.
Somebody do it with their hand.
I've watched a few people do it.
Yeah, I see girls in Rome, and they got a needle bar with tape on there. I go, well, isn't that prison? But Tor does it like, you know, like the Norwegians did it. He's a historian. He just mailed me a book months ago, and today he said, it just came back to me. It didn't make it.
Especially like
There, Tor whatever his last name is. Well, check out this guy's work. This is all hand poked, the outline and everything.
Wow, look how solid that line was.
He freehands it, and then that's all hand poked. And all he does is that type tattooing. Look, this little sticks. That's all. That's hand poked.
Those are solid.
Oh yeah, he did one on my buddy. He did this little Celtic thing here.
People can't roll that with a machine. Those things are like solid straight.
Can't. Yeah, look, all that shading, everything's like hand poked. It's all Norwegian. I mean, that looks like a machine. Looks like a
I just
knife.
understand them straight lines hand poking.
And but he freehands the stuff on to people too, man. I can't
and you
even
ain't got
follow a
pictures.
Celtic design. He freehands the design and then hand pokes it.
It's freehand and hand poking.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. There's old planelism background he's done. How many dots did that take? One at a time.
I mean, I can see the dot work, but the line work to be that straight. Man, like that was a solid 13-round liner.
Yeah, he just did this book. That's a book that just went back to Norway. He's going to mail it to me. Guys, so I'll be in Amsterdam. I'll just pick it up. I wish I could see.
It's gonna cost you $40 to bring it back, probably.
Come on. That's all his work. Look at that shit, dude. So draw that on, then hand poke it.
Toro what?
Torola. I call him Torola, but his last name's like, if you just type in Torola, you'll find him. It's like one of those Scandinavian.
What was that, Facebook or something?
Yeah, Torola. If you type that in, then it'll pop up. And man, he's just this wonderful guy. He's like real humble, you know. I'd like to get a little tattoo by him just because, his last name is, my buddy got a tattoo by him. His last name is, however you say that, Stevie V. But Torola. And he kind of looks like a Viking. He's a little guy and his hair's pulled back and he's got a little beard, you know. But I met him and he's like, I want to give you this book on history. I'm like, I don't even know you. So I mailed him one of my books. And I did another book. But you talk about traditional tattooists, he's doing it like Vikings did it. Pretty impressive, man.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that if there's a back when he's working. That goddamn outline, dude.
Straight line that thick.
That outline looks just like it's done with a machine. I can't do it that good with a machine. That's circle and shit. And he just, Applegate said he kind of lifts the skin, he kind of pecks it like that. Kind of lifts it up as he's doing it. And he did this like 3-knot thing right here in Applegate in about an hour and something. Maybe it was 2 hours, but it was not that big. But man, it was right on point.
I mean, can you imagine hand poking curves like that too? Like to do a curve that nice and hand poke it?
This guy's the most humble guy you'd want. Yeah, there was one of his drawings.
Yeah, patience is key there.
There's one of his drawings. I can't even draw that, you know.
Yeah, I
he gave me
so.
a big print. He drew me too.
I can't barely look at
It
it.
don't matter how much money you got. I can't tattoo that. You know. He's good friends with Gideon, so he'll be at Gideon's convention.
That's so impressive to be able to lay down some black lines like that, though.
God, you think? Yeah. Oh, that's not him. That's another
it's like
guy.
a- It's like a smoothie kind of, but a little
Yeah, that shit's straighter than I can.
Cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that shit's straighter than I can do it with a machine.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that thing's solid there.
Yeah, he just draws
Sort
it
of,
on you and
yeah.
then hand pokes
It's like
it.
really big. So,
That's when you go, I give up. I
I wonder
quit.
how painful it is to get
I'll just
hand
cut
poked
my
like that.
fingers off. I mean, or like, you know, these also. Who drew this for you?
Schultz, Mike Schultz.
That's nice. I mean, yeah, I mean, they're just killer illustrators, you know.
Yeah, he's one of those people who can tattoo and illustrate extremely.
Yeah.
He's one of those people that's like, kind of like him and Junior. I say you give both of them some sticks and mud and they turn it into a masterpiece. And you just be like, how the hell did that just happen? I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean, in the learning curve, I mean, you know, there's guys tattooed 2 years. And, like
Schultz is
Samantha
maybe
Fung
15
and
years in. And he's
Samantha Fung was from Singapore and does this killer traditional work. And I said, how long you tattooed? She said 3 years. And she uses coil machine. She said she's going to go to a rotary. Man, she just moved to London. But I met her in London. I met her at the Bristol Tattoo Convention, then she was at the Rome one. Let me show you her work. That's just killer, dude. She's just a little Chinese girl.
3 years in.
3 years in.
You know, especially coming from there, I mean, tattooing there was real
It's all
simple.
these guys with traditional American bodysuits. I'm like, how the hell does that happen?
The piece I bought off of Flip from I think California out there is a samurai warrior with all traditional American tattoos
Here's
on.
Samantha Fung.
Which is a cool painting.
Oh, wait a minute.
Samantha Funk?
Fung.
Funk?
Samantha Fung. Samantha Fung tattoos. Okay, okay. Yeah, check out her work. Let's look at those. Her color, she uses like just a few muted colors.
Oh, she's only 3 years in?
Yeah, yeah.
This reminds me of Bobby Ellis's work.
That looks like 1920s tattooing.
That was like Bobby Ellis
Her
work?
color palette's real cool. It's real muted. Look at that stuff.
Mine works super tight.
Just her designs, man. She just did this tiger and dragon she posted, I think, today.
It's black, brown, and orange, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but man, she draws all the time. I mean,
Man, that looks so traditional. And
oh, that's my favorite. If I could tattoo like that, I think I did something. That's
I would,
been
yeah.
Corday design.
You know who Bobby Ellis is? That reminds me of his work. That big painting at the end of my hallway.
Yeah, if I could tattoo like
Wow,
her.
3 years in and she's doing something
Yeah,
as
she
good
just
as him, and
she
he's
just
20
drew that
years
one.
in.
That's the one she just posted. How good that design is.
That's so cool.
Man, she does so much.
Is she digitally designing or drawing?
I think she draws. But just, man, every piece she just has these sheets of flash this big. She was at Rome, and I'm like, God damn. I mean, that's a Japanese piece. But what she's known for, yeah, I think
cool.
she'd give me one of those prints, Samantha Fung. How nice that is.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like something.
Man, 3 years. Now I guess she's tattooed 4 years.
Well, it makes a difference to
We'll
3
give her
or
another
4.
year.
Yeah.
There was a guy that they posted.
It's just beautiful
I can't
stuff,
remember who it
man.
was, but
Killer colors.
that
just
Tattoo
beautiful.
Guardians, they had that guy on the other day, his first tattoo. Did you see it? I can't remember what the dude's name was. It's worth going back and finding their podcast seeing. This dude has done one tattoo, and you're like, I should just fucking quit. Like, I mean, I might as well just.
Oh, I had a guy once
Stop
learn his
right
first
now.
tattoo looked pretty good. Then he come in and just did this tiger head. I didn't even tell him nothing. And he's like, I'd like to learn to tattoo. I said, dude, I'd like for you to learn to tattoo. I just don't have time. I said, you can come in and ask me stuff. He's supposed to come in tomorrow. But he, you know, he's drawn his whole life. He's picked up a machine and, you know, I walked away, I come back, he's colored in the tiger. I'm like, nobody showed him how to color. I'm like, fuck. The guy makes me feel like a monkey. I tried everything. This guy just picks up a machine and
Again,
tattoos
the
it.
difference is you can do one tattoo and already watch 20 tattoo videos or spoke to people.
Yeah.
When we were trying to learn a tattoo,
Oh, you
your one tattoo was after years of researching how to even get the shit to do it, you know, let alone watch a damn video.
Well,
on it,
I
you
mean,
know?
you see kids this big that are skateboard champions. The whole bar in the world's raised. You
Yeah.
know, everybody's better at everything. You know, I mean, whatever you do, somebody's better at it and you're real young.
Man,
They're animals you quick.
yeah,
And that's the way it ought to be. I mean, you know, it shouldn't be going backwards. It ought to
Being
but,
progressive.
but you think, well, look at the tattoos they're doing now. What's going to blow that away? I mean, I went to Amsterdam. This guy had a food dog head this big, a great big claw down here. It was perfectly tattooed. They did it in 3 days. Did almost 30 hours in 3 days at the convention. And they used big rotaries, you know, but this thing was gold, man, had thin lines, thick lines. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, some
I looked at it, I go, dude, let me
weekend.
see that. I go, how long did that take? Oh, we did it the last 3 days. Fuck, that took me 3 years to do it.
Like I said, what's the next bar? For
They do a whole
tattooing,
leg.
you
A
know?
girl had a whole leg done in black and gray. It was like a jazz musician on. They did it at the convention. 3 days. I don't even know who wants to set that long.
I've done 2 days back to back, but I don't know if I'd sign up for 3.
I've done 3 and it hurts, but I don't even want to tattoo for 30 hours in 3 days. I want to tattoo like 3 hours, 4 hours.
These guys that are going now, though, they're going to compete. Some of them don't look up. The whole
Oh,
weekend.
it's all about winning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like Schultz and
I'm
Long,
always
Jesse, both of those two.
They
sit
make
down
me a
and they don't look up.
judge. I'll be a judge and I go, well, I don't know nothing about this. You know, I go, it's just wonderful artwork, but this one's wonderful and that one's wonderful. This one's bigger than that one, but they're all good.
Judging's
I go-
terrible nowadays.
I go,
It's
well,
tough.
and I always tell the people, if you like it,
It's
then-
nice because you get to see stuff and be up on it and be like, I can't even do that.
But
How
then
do I
some
judge
people,
it? But
but
then,
then some people act like they won the Olympics. I go, look, they're all good work. It's just this guy's got more of it than you.
yeah.
Or this is bigger. You know, it's a photorealism piece
I think
this
it's
big.
cool for
Doesn't
clients
get
to
you
be
as much as
excited
one
about
that
winning.
big.
I like to see clients get excited about winning, but
It is
sometimes
cool.
the artists get a little bit carried away with what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, the one that won traditional in Amsterdam actually had some colors that weren't traditional. You know, they were really nice tattoos.
We were judging.
But if you're really going to
Las
judge
Vegas
traditional,
in traditional category was up there, and this tattoo was dope. Or no, it wasn't. I think it was actually Resurrection Island. And the tattoo was dope, but it had non-traditional colors, and the piece beside it was pretty dope too, but it had all traditional
oh,
colors.
that was me.
And they were all like, "Oh, this one." I'm like, "Yeah, but we got if we're gonna go by the categories, guys, let's think here and think
That's
about."
what I was in Amsterdam. I thought, well, those are beautiful, but they aren't.
Yeah,
They aren't really in the traditional class.
Irv and I had that talk last weekend in Pittsburgh. I was judging with him, and there were several pieces that were like lined up with traditional tattoos, and I'm like, this isn't traditional at all, right?
Yeah.
And he'd be like, no.
I'd like to look
Like,
at all,
it'd be
I'd
really
like to look
nice.
at all the people first
Yeah.
because they'll come through and I'll give them a 9, then the next guy you're like, wow, it's twice as good. And then I gotta cross that, I'll give him an 8, and I'd like to just see
Next
them.
thing you know, you have to scratch out the first guys all the way down to a
Oh
1.
yeah, and
That's
then
why
people
we
start
do it.
arguing, and I go, I don't give a shit, well, whoever you think.
The new system that Derb kind of created and works because you get to see everything before you judge.
That's what you
and
should
that's
do.
key, isn't it?
It's
Yeah,
really nice.
oh,
to
It's
see it
more
like that.
fair and it's just.
I
it's
don't know
more
why
pleasant to
everybody does it. They
judge.
just have them walk by any category, look at it, and then judge it. Because like
Yeah.
I said, I'll think, man, that's killer, and I'll give the guy a high score. Then the next time, man, that's better.
Yeah, and then 20 people down the line, you're like,
I forgot what I even looked at.
Oh yeah, I try to write it. I usually just look at, what'd you give a guy? 8, I'll come and give him an 8. I don't give a shit, you know.
yeah. It's judging them. I think that it's something you gotta want to do. It's something that you need somebody experienced signing up the right pieces to, because you know what I mean, like
Well, they had one category in that, what's that guy's name, Nico, you know,
Nick
those
Artato.
yeah, I didn't like his piece. It was this big Medusa, but it was kind of fading. He goes like, ah, it's beautiful. I go, well, vote on it then. I don't give a fuck. You know, I don't get a trophy. I don't care who wins, but it wasn't the best piece.
Yeah.
It just, she just liked it. This one girl from Texas, and
Well, that's why I try to
I go,
remind
"Wait,
clients,
this-
like when you go up there, it's only a matter of someone's opinion. Doesn't mean your tattoo sucks because he likes skulls more than he likes roses.
Oh, in Amsterdam, some Chinese girl had this beautiful back piece, and she was real serious about showing it. She didn't win, and I said, man, it's a beautiful tattoo you got. You know, I said, it's really beautiful. It's just there's a guy with a whole body suit. It's hard to
I
judge.
do like letting people know,
I
like,
thought
no, this is a really nice
I just
piece.
said, that's a beautiful tattoo. I said, it don't matter if you win or not. It don't get any better than that. This guy just had more of it.
Yeah, I think it's cool, and I've had a lot of people come up and be like, "Hey, respectfully, I'm not mad, but like, why did I not win, or why did I not place?" And I like when people ask that, and I like to talk to people about
To
why.
actually give them
I
the
always write
constructive
like
criticism
bribes
they need.
accepted on the back of my dead sheet or something. Because I can't judge that stuff. I
When
mean,
we used to
if
judge
they
it.
like it, it's good.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's a matter of opinion of what someone's into.
But some of them have put a gazillion dollars in. I mean, there's guys over there, this guy's like 5 years had this full Japanese bodysuit. It was like right on point, you know. Now how you gonna judge a dragon on a guy's back with a guy with full bodysuit, you know, just.
I mean, sometimes too, it's the sizing that just makes it real hard, and you have to really get in and say, okay, but this guy's got a full bodysuit, but it's missing color here or there.
Yeah.
You have to really get on. I mean, judging is.
Well, you really need a photorealist guy to judge photorealism. Hell, I can't tell that stuff. You know, I can tell if it's a beautiful tattoo.
Yeah.
I just go, I mean, that's all I do.
Too,
It's like,
sometimes
wow,
I think
that's
it's
a
a matter of
beautiful.
knowing enough to know, is that tattoo going to last? Because that's the thing that we talk
Oh,
about.
I don't think a
We're
bunch of them's
judging,
gonna
like,
last.
Yeah,
I
feel
just,
there's a
and-
lot of times where like my deciding factor, there were a couple of categories last weekend where it was like, that's gonna need touched up, that won't.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's done.
I feel
That
like
needs
me and
more
Havoc
love.
had a bunch of good conversations like that when we were judging together too. It was like, okay.
Oh, I'd see portraits in Rome, you know, were that big, they were beautiful, but I think, well, dude, that's not gonna be there. I mean, it's just not. But I did see a little secret heart about that big, and you can still see little horns, all that, oh, fuck. Ben Grillo, or what, he did Jimmy Whitlock's, these little tattoo machines on each finger. Man, it was just microscopic. Who did your own?
His name's Dave Barton. He's out in California.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know when I first looked at you, I thought he had a shirt on. Yeah, kind of shades of Guy Etchison. Yeah, nice.
Kyle's got some guy work on him too.
You do?
Do what?
Kyle's got some guy work.
Oh, dude, I met Guy when he was a young punk rocker. I got his first set of flashes so fucking ugly, I'm gonna back mail him.
He's on my back email.
Oh, it's like these pinup girls like this, like punk rock, and then there's these biomechanical animals. Just fucking terrible.
Yeah, Kyle's like me. I had long johns on. It's cold. It's been cold out.
And he learned from, is this Atchison?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he just got his own thing going on, you know. But he learned from Bob Oswald in Chicago. And I saw Bob and he said, man, this kid's really good. I said, oh, that's cool. You know, he was a punk rocker. And he goes, he wants to trade you a flash. I said, well, you tell him mailing me his fucking flash and I'll mail him mine. Then it was Guy Atchison. But that flash is, it's like these punk rock girls with their hair. I mean, it's just terrible. I could probably blackmail him. Of course, my first flash was worse. But I still got it somewhere.
Well, I tell you
But there was like a robot elephant and a robot fish. It
you
wasn't nothing
You need to get a picture of
biomechanical.
the
It wasn't
guy
a
now.
thing.
I'm sure he has them. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I know Guy though. He's a
Yes,
nice
he
guy. Yeah, he's a nice guy. And Hannah, his sister, Hannah Atchison. She tattoos one of my clients. She's real nice.
They both. I remember meeting them. They've always been nice. I met them when I was younger and stuff.
Yeah, he's always been a cool guy.
But like, I think like his books are key to like tattooing, even if you're not tattooing that style.
Yeah, I don't. It's like reinventing the tattoo. I'm like, dude, I haven't even barely invented it. I don't need to reinvent it. Well, he'll do a sculpture and photograph it and put it in Photoshop and highlight it, and then he'll tattoo it.
Well, he'll also use 5 different lights while he's taking a
Yeah.
photo of it. And
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah. I'm like, what the hell? I'm not gonna do that. Nolan do those full color renderings for everybody's tattoo. I mean, if you get Tweety Bird, most of the stuff would be a Xerox. And it's all colored in, and there's a line drawing, and then there's a receipt. And people come in and goes, okay, here it is. It wouldn't matter if it's Tweety Bird with a beer mug. Full color renderings. And I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna do that. I had stacks of it.
I guess that's good practice when you're tattooing. You can just lay it down though too. Because
Well, goddamn, he
people like that-
tattooed since the 50s. He ought to know how to color Tweety Bird. I mean, I got those big Japanese pieces like that tiger I showed you and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, those are all just colored pencil. How many hours does that take?
Man, I used to do a lot of color pencil pieces, and I quit doing them because of the hours.
Oh, there's
I love
Samantha
doing them,
Fung.
but man,
Yeah,
I mean,
see
it's
this
that
little-
big versus my
There's
back.
Samantha,
Right.
this little young girl. That's all her flash behind her. That's in Rome.
She did some cool stuff.
Man, she's
I'll tell you
really.
who else is dope. I think he's from this area. That I think his name's like Jimmy Eagle or something on Instagram.
Well, you know, the cool thing is, you let your ego down, you can just appreciate everybody's art. You don't have to be the best, you just do your thing and
Everybody
you can,
does something different.
yeah, I mean, I can't paint old master shit and all that. I mean, I'm more like a folk artist. I mean, my master's degree is in sculpture. I try to make things like folk art now. I try to unlearn that stuff. I don't try to technically do stuff, you know. Well, yeah, just be the best you are at what you do, and you know, like they'll say, well, you can take this portrait class. Well, it wouldn't do me any good because I just can't
This
draw a
guy's
damn
from Ohio.
portrait.
You probably like him. This Johnny Eagle.
Oh yeah, that's nice stuff. Yeah,
There's like a real traditional look to it.
yeah, that's
But it's
nice.
neat to see people like that.
Yeah.
Hit the
Yeah, there's so
foundation.
many of them now, dude.
You know him from, I think, Toledo? Johnny Eagle?
I don't think I do.
There's so many good ones. I get on there and be like, you know, somebody I never heard of, and I'm like, dude, that's cool.
I like when you just see, I mean, the mechanics have to be there for that tattoo.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that thing's so clean. It's a bulldog. Look how clean that thing is.
Yeah, there's Nolan drawing. You know, these are his illustrations. This
I
one-
like that one a lot.
This is about that big, but he draws everything. Yeah, there's one of Nolan's. There's one of Nolan's.
He hand colored all that to tattooed on somebody
They're all
later.
hand colored. That's probably a Xerox with the line drawing on the back. There's one of Nolan's.
See, that's why, like, now I love
He's
the
really
fact that
known
people
for
can take their
tattooing
iPad
and
and fill
stuff.
it in, but I also hate the fact that they don't have that involved in it.
The handcrafted part of it. I mean, I'm still pretty analog. I do a lot on my iPad, but I still do a lot of like real.
I bought an
used to do
iPad
a
4
lot of
years ago and I
paintings,
still don't know how to use it. I bought one to take my collection to Rome. They were having a big collector show. Then the COVID hit. My iPad's still laying in the corner. I don't know how to use it.
I had
don't
mine
want
for
to
a
use
year
it.
before I ever learned how to use it.
I just don't. I just trace on a light table. You know.
I do like it now. It's been convenient for some of the pieces.
Oh, it's
I'm
real
doing.
convenient.
But I'm doing more of a mixture of style between traditional work and bigger pieces too now. So
I mean that Oni Sambone, she's in Amsterdam and she's an illustrator and her husband does everything on the computer. I think she's sponsored by like Bishop. Man, she can fucking tattoo. Jesus. I met her last time I was over there with Gideon. And she's real nice. I went to her house for
So we're getting close to our actual like podcast time. Do you want to join us and keep talking for a little bit while we go live
oh, I don't care.
on the interwebs?
How long does it last?
I mean, we were just talking. You've been talking so much. We got a ton of footage, but if we could just go live for a little bit and kind of talk about maybe Kyle's knowledge gathering.
Kyle's experience out here today and what he's seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could probably just set up on the massage table and kind of stay in this little area if that's all right.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Well, my 93-year-old sculpture professor